monthly open meeting of the third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. Today is Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, and it's 9:30 a.m. We're in the boardroom as well as on Zoom and TV6. I'd like to call today's meeting to order, and I see that we have a quorum of all of the directors present. We'll now make our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Director Jim Cook. Jim?
We all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, thanks, Jim. Now it's time to approve the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda? Hold on just a second, unless you're going to move to approve. There'll be discussion in just a second.
I move.
So Jim approved, Kush second.
Yes.
Now, is there some discussion? Would anybody have any changes they'd like to make?
Yes, I would propose a change on page 2 of 4 of 5B regarding the recall election, the results.
Okay, sorry. So we're on the agenda. So you're talking about meeting minutes?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get to that momentarily.
We'll get to that.
So
Thank you.
appreciate your enthusiasm, Jules. Thanks.
President Laws, can you notify me who seconded the motion?
Kush, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
thank you.
All right. So now I'll ask again, any requested changes to today's agenda? Okay, hearing none. Any objections to approving today's agenda? All right, hearing none. Consider the agenda approved by consent. Now we're looking to approve the meeting minutes for 4 different meetings. Let's address each separately. So first we're going to talk about the meeting minutes for the last board meeting held on May 17th. Can I get a motion to approve that? Donna approves, thank you. Second, Annie. Thank you. Any discussion, requested changes to the last meeting minutes? Okay, no? Okay. Any objections to approving? Okay, then we'll consider that approved by consent. Next meeting, recall tabulation meeting held on June 3rd. Can I get a motion to approve that one? Jim moves, Jules second. I'm going to assume that as a second, Jules. Now, is there any discussion?
Yes, on page 2 of 4, the counting of the ballots, it seems to have left out entirely the recall. So we should indicate something to the effect of the inspector of election announced the results of the recall,
Okay.
and then announce them.
All right. Okay. I was going to make the same comment, so thanks.
Yeah, there is one other item, and that is that it indicates that there were 2,784 votes. In fact, there were 2,781, and one of them was blank. So the actual result was 1981 and 759, which totals 2,780.
Okay.
Big deal.
So we'll ask staff to take a look at, since they have the official numbers from the inspector of elections, and
Right.
make those updates. So they'll add in the recall counts. Thanks. Any other changes? Okay. Any objections to approving? Okay. Consider approved by consent. Next meeting is a special open meeting held on June 3rd to elect new board officers. Can I get a motion to approve that? I know it's get tiring. Jim, thank you. And Craig, I'll assume you're seconding. Thanks. Any requested changes to that meeting?
Yes.
Make sure your speaker's on if not.
If you look at others present, it reflects myself and Joel's in that category. However, we should be reflected as directors in that it could arguably be construed that I, as a non-board member, was elected to an officer position.
All right, okay, that makes sense. Thanks. We'll get that changed. Any other suggested changes? Okay, any objections to approving with that change? Okay, I'll consider that approved via consent. And finally, meeting minutes for the agenda prep meeting that happened on Monday, June 6th. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes? Jim, thank you. Craig, seconds. Thank you. Any discussion, requested changes? All right, okay, any objection to approving as is? And no objections heard. We'll consider that approved by consent. Thank you. We're now done approving the meeting minutes. And now we're at agenda item 6, the report of the chair. So good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Laws. I'm guessing most of you are getting your first look at the updated third board. You'll notice that Robert Muchnick, Lynn Jarrett are no longer with us on the board. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the time and effort that they spent on the board, volunteering for all of you. And we now have 2 new directors, Jules Allon and Chris Prince. Okay, so welcome Jules and Chris. Chris was elected by the board, as she just kind of alluded to be the secretary, and I was elected to be president. So thanks, everybody, for your support. As board president, one of my top priorities is the 2023 budget. You know, the budget determines the services that we want provided to our community and the costs of those services, and will ultimately result in what the monthly assessment fee is for next year. So we're working on that diligently to try to manage that. The budget process for this board started in May, late May, and goes until the budget is approved sometime in September. I believe it's part of the September board meeting. Earlier this month, staff delivered a first cut, kind of a version 1 proposal of the 2023 budget to the board. As the first cut, they had some basic assumptions, which was the same level of services we receive today. And however, due to the rising costs of everything, materials, staff, utilities, insurance, that preliminary budget showed a monthly increase proposal of 5%. Okay? So the board is now looking very closely at that initial proposal. We're working closely with staff, asking detailed questions about what those services really are, what the costs of those services are, what efficiencies we might be able to help them implement. And then we'll offer some direction for making some changes. Staff will then take that information back, update the budget, and present us with a new budget in the middle of July. And this process kind of goes back and forth 2 or 3 times until the September budget is defined. So I look forward to keeping you up to date over the next days and weeks on how that process is going. But I did want to mention a few things. There are several constraints that we're working with on the budget. I think you may be aware of most of them, but just want to keep them front of attention in your minds as well. The biggest is property insurance. Okay? So property insurance, that issue, the situation that we are in still has not been resolved in any way as far as coming up with a less expensive solution. So we're still working within our board itself, and this board is working with United and Third to try to come up with ways to identify less expensive property insurance, yet still protect our community. Another component we're dealing with is some maintenance that was deferred from 2022 to some later year as a result of yet last year's budget to try to pay for the property insurance for this year. So these are some maintenance items that if we let linger and go on too long or defer them too long, they may cause more problems later and more expenses later. So we need to try to look at those closely and figure out which ones we should include in the 2023 budget or not. But keep in mind that any that we include in the 2023 budget will tend to increase the cost if we can't find an offsetting cost. And also some of us on the board, myself included, really believe that we need to invest now on some projects that if we spend some money now, we'll save even more money later. An example of that is turf removal, landscape renovation is what I tend to call it, but it's getting rid of lawn where we can, replacing some of our plants with plants that need less water and need less maintenance, need less trimming. And if we can do that, we should save money in the years ahead. Just as an FYI to you, water plan for the budget, that preliminary budget we have for water for 2023 is over $3 million. Preliminary budget for maintaining our lawn and our shrubs is close to $3 million for next year. So anything that we can do to, over the next several years, get those numbers down will be something that we're looking at. And we also need to keep in mind that based upon the drought that we're experiencing, we may be forced into some of this landscape renovation sooner than we thought. So again, we're all working closely, the board, the staff, to try to find the most equitable budget for you. Again, I'll keep you informed as the days and weeks go forward. And finally, a few other remarks. One is I'm giving back to staff the presidential phone. I don't think I need a special phone to conduct board business, but I will be keeping the third mutual at lagunawoodsvillage.com email address. So that was an email address set up by my predecessor with the intent of transitioning it from board president to board president so that you as members don't have to find another email address when you want to communicate with your board president. It should always be thirdmutual@lagunawoodsvillage.com. And then finally, I also want to let you know that I am continuing the monthly town halls that my predecessor started. So the next one is tomorrow from 3 to 5 in the Sequoia Room in Clubhouse 2. Hopefully some of you will come out and chat with me and speak your mind and share your thoughts with other members and get to know me a little bit better. Look forward to that. So thanks for listening and thanks for your support. And now I'm moving on to agenda item 7. So we'll now have our update from the VMS board, and I believe Raquel is here today to provide that update for us.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, I thought the slides go up. They don't go up? Oh, not yet. Okay. Anyway, I am going to let you know about VMS initiatives, and I'm going to start with enhancing efficiency. This includes community service, and resales is part of community service. The resales department has started using e-filing resales other documents with county clerk's recorder. This is used primarily with United, but efficiencies benefit both mutuals. Re-engineering the workflow processes is another enhancement that we're working on, that VMS is working on. Third, escrow received to close. The time is improving. January took 35 days to close an escrow and May 27 days. Thank you, resales. VMS initiatives are identifying cost savings with employee health insurance. VMS is exploring options to provide quality employee benefits in a most cost-effective manner. Innovative health plan funding strategies include level funding. Employer pays level premium to insurance provider monthly to cover admin, claims funding, and stop-loss premiums. 2, minimum premium. Employer pays minimum fixed amount of the plan's monthly claims. It relies on insurance provider to cover excess claims above the determined amount. Captives, self-funded arrangements. Participants share in the outcome of the group's underwriting performance, including profit and investment income. The third initiative, measuring performance. Third completed service orders year to date through May, 7,292 service orders completed. 92% completed within 20 days, average completion 6 days. Exceeded completion target with 2 exceptions. Paint, focused on interior paint, touch-up due to slight delay in exterior paint delivery, which is not staff, it's outside sources. Damage restoration. Tickets remain open until final inspection is completed. 4, measure satisfaction. Work order satisfaction survey may results improved over average in all categories. May 2022, 479 responses, average rating 4.60 stars. Year to date through April, 1,700 responses, average rating 4.55 stars. This is on a scale of 1 to 5, and 5 being the best. So we're doing pretty well there. VMS initiatives number 5, I think I have here, identifying trends, following up on negative comments and scores with 2 stars or less. Trend, plumbers do not have the right parts on the first visit. Action, hands-on training of resident services by plumbers to recognize common toilet and other components to bring to better triage residents' telephone calls. 6, employee recognition. Employee Excellence Awards highlight outstanding employees who demonstrate excellent customer service, achieve great results on projects, regularly go above and beyond regular job duties. 16 employees who exceeded service expectations and made positive impact on the village were recently recognized. Their photographs of their award winners are on display in Human Resources. At this time, I would like to read an email that I received over the weekend. And this is from Neil, and he lives at 3244. And I thought that was really nice of him, and I'd like to thank him and thank Kayla. I have always had very good service from VMS employees. Recently, I dealt with Kayla in alterations. Never has anyone been so helpful and courteous. She helped walk me through a complex process with patience. The office was busy, yet she helped everyone with knowledgeable answers and professional assistance. I am thankful that someone like Kayla works here. Thanks, Neil. And I want to thank Kayla for all of that. Okay, and other key efforts VMS is working towards: improving manner alterations, employee development, customer services, processing improvements, developing key performance indicators based on strategic plan goals and objectives, hosting bi-monthly client services, providing VMS an opportunity to discuss key topics with its clients in a dedicated manner. I would like to thank all the staff for the great job that they're doing. I'd like to thank Third and congratulate the new board members on allowing VMS to give them an update. Thank you.
Thank you, Raquel. I appreciate that. Does anybody on the board have any questions for Raquel? Okay. Thanks again. All right. We'll now move on to the open forum, agenda item 8. So at this time, members may address the board of directors regarding items within the jurisdiction of this board of directors and not on the agenda. All right. So if anybody wants in the open forum to talk about the anti-harassment process, for instance, they'll need to wait and talk about that a little bit later when we talk about the anti-harassment process as a board. Regarding the open forum, the board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted to the open forum to 30 minutes. Each member is asked to speak for no more than 3 minutes, and a member may speak only once during the forum, and speakers may not give their time to other people. And members may also share their comments by joining this meeting via Zoom or by emailing your comments to meeting@vmsinc.org to have your message read during this open forum, should time permit. All right. Paul, if you can.
Okay, our first speaker is Director Milliman from 9693E.
Good morning. and congratulations. As a resident of the Third Mutual, I recently received a problematic email from a third board director. The director's email urged me to oppose a given item on today's June 21st agenda. One board member does not speak for an entire board of directors. The board votes to make policy and other decisions for the community and speaks its decision with one voice. Therefore, the director's email urging me to oppose a given measure on an agenda item seems inappropriate and against the rules. And while residents have a perfect right to publicly express their opinions on an issue, a board director does not have the right to dictate, urge, or intimate in any way what opinion that should be. Residents should read the issues for themselves, investigate for themselves, make their own conclusions, and share their thoughts with the board, knowing that the board makes the final decision. Emailing to an entire mutual is usually reserved for candidates for elections and not individual board directors. A director doing such mailing is really abusing the privilege. Public opinion, although valuable, does not always see the whole picture nor have its own welfare in mind. But one director does not have the right to dictate that opinion through public means, electronic or in print. I would like this director to cease and desist from continuing to publicize his individual opinion to the community and express it directly to the board in proper discourse and abide by what the board decides. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. Next, Paul.
Next, we have Leland Isaacs from 5194.
It's Lelang Isaacs, and congratulations to the new board member and the new board officers. I'm here speaking as a member, and I respectfully request that the board set the following priorities, because these are the priorities expressed to me by other members. I'm just the loudmouth they expect to speak for them. Request 1, please release the at-will contract for Sandra Gottlieb, because most members have compared the expenses for United legal expenses and Third. And it doesn't take a great mathematician to figure out that the per hour cost of Ms. Gottlieb is much higher than the per hour cost of Jeff Beaumont. We have an aging community. As much as possible, we need our money going to maintenance of this aging community. Otherwise, we are going down the road of obsolescence. So if we save $500,000, that's $500,000. 2019, you compare the legal expenses, that's about $500,000. Number 2 request, the president has already adequately addressed that, but I'd like to explain why we are in this quandary. We should never have divorced from United, our joint insurance policy at the lowest level. There was no excuse for the indemnification clause, because anything above the shared insurance, United's name was not on it. So that decision to separate from United did a great disservice to our members. That's why our property insurance is so high. So as soon as possible, we should get married again with United, if United is willing, because I have a feeling they discovered some benefits. Number 3, the members whom I represent would very much like the third board to examine what United has done in 2012, which is to make some manor alterations permitless and to just submit a before and after picture. That might give us some personal savings. And the other is, if at all possible, move the compliance process to the resale process, because the compliance process is already inherent in the resale process. That way, VMS does not gain enmity from members because they have to implement compliance in the color of paint. It is draconian to ask someone to
Speaker
pay
time is up.
$150 to change the color of a door paint for which no member has complained. Thank you for allowing me the extra minute.
Thank you.
A second.
Thank you, thanks.
Next, we have Sharon, I believe it's Carlson? Carlin from 4002-2A.
Yeah, this is a little item to all of you, but it's a big item to me. And thank you so much for all your service in creating an environment of beauty, organization, and functionality. And this is those three concepts I want to bring to an itty-bitty space that is on the common walkway. And where one walks here and doesn't walk in this little itty-bitty space right here, and this is my building. Okay, since I'm a very visual person, I'm amazed that by adding one beautiful functional item picture here with a plant, it's a $150 wicker chest, changes the appearance and the beauty of the whole common walkway. As I walk back and forth from one end to the other, I can see it affects my heart because it looks more calm and beautiful to me as I'm walking. And I'm doing the laundry, the trash. I'm really bringing up things from the elevator all the time I'm there. And you know what? I don't run into anybody. Not yet have I run into one person. And I've got signatures from B, C, and D that would use that little area, but they don't. And this is what it looks like right now. So you can kind of see, I'm just trying to bring a little more beauty. And I'm the only one that's there. And they've all signed and said they're in favor of it. If you sell a house, you don't sell it empty, you stage it. And if you stage it, you make it more beautiful, you make it more appealing, and you increase the value. And this is just a little thing that would increase the value. But not only that, this is not, and this wicker thing, chest, is not this. This is a $15 thing that belongs behind a closet or in the garage. There's a big difference. This doesn't do anything for eye appeal, but this does. From up above or outside, it doesn't affect any, you don't see it. I'm on the second floor right here, can't see it. So, the other thing is the functionality. What a difference it makes for me, because these places are small. I came down from 4,000, oh dear, so let me hurry, to a little place, and this is what's right outside my door. So the functionality that I'm suggesting for this wicker thing, and I've talked to the neighbors, I have in that lots of fun things. Not one person uses that park except for the dog. But I have inside this chest, besides organizational things like watering the plants and plant food, but the bocce ball, the badminton, I have croquet, I have things that will, and I'm going to share it with others. So it will make it more functional. So this is my request. I'd like to have a good-looking functional wicker chest allowed in that area, and it will serve the community. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Chris Collins of 3306 Unite Q.
Good morning, Chris Collins, 3306Q, and I'm here to bring you an update on the work of the foundation of Laguna Woods Village, which is on behalf of residents who are experiencing temporary financial crisis. 25th anniversary of foundation of Laguna Woods Village. As residents of Laguna Woods Village, we are all familiar with the 3 stages of life: youth, middle age, and you're looking wonderful. While we're not sure if the foundation is considered young or middle-aged at 25, it certainly is looking wonderful. On May 5th, 2022, the foundation celebrated its 25th anniversary with supporters and friends of the organization. Began in 1997, the foundation was started with a simple premise. It was a group of residents who pooled their resources to help other residents facing hard times, and from that simple concept, the foundation was started with the help of social services. Its basic premise is neighbors helping neighbors. In the past 5 years, the foundation has spent over $1.2 million to help village residents, with over 95% of the funds going to services and nearly 99% raised here in the village. The foundation helped fund over 80,000 Meals on Wheels last year. To put this in perspective, in 1998, which was the second year of the foundation's existence, the total budget was only $20,000. But the ability of the foundation to thrive over 25 years and help residents is due to the support of many groups, individual donors, clubs, village leaders, and staff, and our agency partners among them. In particular, the foundation is grateful for our agency partners, which include Age Well Senior Services, South County Outreach, Alzheimer's Orange County, and Memorial Care Saddleback Medical Center, who have all been willing to work with us to meet the residents' needs. As a result of this support, the foundation continues to help village residents confronting temporary financial challenges. But none of this would have been possible without the enduring partnership of the foundation and social services here in the village. Social services, which is funded through our association fees, was there at the very beginning. Social services is the conduit for receiving help from foundation. It interacts with residents, builds trust, identifies needs, and links residents with help and services. For more information about how the foundation achieves its motto, which is Neighbors Helping Neighbors, please go to our website, which is thefoundationoflagunawoodsvillage.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Collins, and thanks for the work of the foundation. Appreciate it.
Next, we have Peggy Thomas of 2250 Unit A.
Hello. I'm in a Casa Linda, and that might be important in this. The permitting process, as we probably all know, is long and tedious. After months of back and forth, I got permission to have my condo kitchen demoed, leaving my walls and insulation removed because of asbestos removal requirements by the association at a cost of about $6,000 more than what normally would have been. Then I'm left with bare walls. And by bare walls, I'm talking about an exterior wall between me and the crawl space that is nothing more than a piece of plastic. The plastic sheeting goes the whole width of my home between me, the crawl space, and the hill. And that plastic is translucent, not much thicker than the plastic that we carry our garbage, our groceries home in. The inside plastic that they protected the rest of my home from is about twice as thick, if not more, than that piece of plastic. When I brought it to the attention of the alterations, they informed me that that's how they are all built. Now, in 1969, I don't know what the codes were, but I don't know any community or any city that that would allow an exterior wall to be nothing more than plastic. If I bring this to the communities, to the external community's attention, we are in danger of having every single Casa Linda red tagged. Therefore, I'm appealing to you to address this problem as soon as possible. And see if I forgot anything. Yeah. I don't know a better way of saying it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your issues. I appreciate it.
What is your unit number, madam?
I'm sorry?
Your manor number?
2250A.
Thank
And
you.
and it's all the Casa Lindas that are A and B, I'm informed, are built the same way. The only ones that might be different are those that might have had some other issues where it would have been replaced or repaired.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next, we actually have an email from Karen Shore of 4012 Unit 3G. I am writing in regards to the resolution passed in October 2020, which extended the exterior paint and prior to the paint programs from a 10-year to a 15-year cycle. During discussion of the paint program at the May 31st maintenance review budget meeting, I was told that the third board had written proof of a 15-year warranty for the paint used on our buildings. I requested a copy of that warranty. Later, during the June 7th Finance Committee meeting, Director Jostak stated that the 15-year paint project would be great. There were two supposed warranty letters in the agenda packet, one from PPG Paints and one from Life Paint Corporation. Approval for the extension to the paint program was based upon these letters, yet neither letter actually provided a written 15-year paint warranty. What the two letters did show was that, number one, PPG's letter to VMS from July 2020 promised to provide a written warranty if the 15-year cycle was approved by the board. There is no evidence that a 15-year paint program was later provided. Number two, Life Paint Corporation's letter to VMS, also from July 2020, indicated that extending their warranty from 5 years to 7.5 years for a specified paint product for use on balconies, walkways, and decks. This letter had nothing to do with the paint on wood, stucco, and rails. Third's reserve study from 2021, written August 2020 by reserve studies specialist Sean Anderson of Association Reserves Incorporated, clearly included these words too. Third's plan for a 15-year paint cycle, and I quote, the industry standard is 8 to 10 years for a stucco and 5 years for wood. Yet the board voted 2 months later to extend the paint program to a 15-year cycle. In summary, there is likely no wood and rail paint that will last 15 years. Before the 2023 maintenance budget is passed, I urge the board to, number one, get the actual contract from our paint company providing a 15-year warranty. Number two, explain how to justify painting from every 15 years when Third's reserve study states the industry standard for stucco is on an 8 to 10-year paint cycle and wood is on a 5-year paint cycle. Number three, recognize the unproven cost savings by painting 5 years later will most likely cost more in the long run due to expensive repairs. Without proper paint protection, termites and rot will harm our structures, not to mention old paint cracks, allowing moisture intrusion. Number four, 15-year cycle may cause loss of architectural integrity. For example, the vigas and corbels have been cut off certain models, turning buildings into architecturally starved stucco boxes, all because these wood decorative elements are not being painted according to 5-year painting standard.
Thanks.
And that is the last of the member comments.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Are there any responses from any board members regarding the open forum comments? Jules.
I want to thank Joan for bringing up an important issue, and the issue is whether a board member has the right to express his own personal opinions of something, and particularly since this addresses what might be called the very essence of why I'm here today and why I'm sitting on this board, I will thank you for allowing me to readdress it. The anti-social, whatever it is, program that apparently you're referring to, Joan, has as its heart to protect against the possibility that a board member will improperly represent their own opinions as that of the board. And anyone that has read any of my screeds or listened to any of the things that I have said in my open forum for the past couple of years, anyone that thinks that that reflects the board, all I can say is we have a substantial difference of opinion. I appreciate the fact that you may believe that it violates the rules, but I have it on excellent legal authority that it doesn't. And the legal authority is I looked in the mirror. Thank you for your comments.
All right. Jim?
I just have a question to clarify. The lady that talked about the plastic in the hillside, are you a lower unit and so it's the wall that sets against that hillside and you don't have a retaining wall or anything? It's just plastic going into the slope of the dirt hillside?
Okay, there is a crawl space between my unit and the crawl space, and the hill. The plastic is against the wood structure, but there is no wall.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. I live in a similar, but I have a block retaining wall on that side of the wall
Yeah, there's
where
no-
that slope is coming down from the hillside.
Right, there, between my interior wall was insulation, and I have been told by alterations that when the wall goes back up, that I shouldn't have to worry about it. But the reality is that an exterior wall prevents mice and whatever else that might get in, including termites, from doing damage to the rest of the house. There are currently slashes and cuts and wires going through that plastic where those kind of animals or whatever can get in.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thanks. Any other comments? Good.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Chris Collins to come and tell us all the good things that the foundation is doing, and we truly appreciate all the good work that is being done by the foundation. And thank you to you, Chris, for making us aware of what is going on. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, any others? I have some, so I'm just waiting for everybody else. All right. All right, regarding Joan's comments, so I'm working with my board to work with all of the board members to act appropriately, so we'll continue that effort. Regarding Liling and her comments, thanks for your thoughts on priorities. Most of those are ours as well, so as we all know, there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things that can be improved, and we're working on quite a few of them, so hopefully we'll get to those as well. Ms. Carlin, I'll work with staff, and we'll see where we are with being able to allow a chest there, and if not, why not? And Ms. Thomas, I'll work with Jim, staff. We'll try to understand the issue that you have. Maybe we'll actually come and see you and take a look at that and see how that's going. And then finally, Karen Shore, I sent her an email this morning with the actual warranty from the paint company. She responded back saying, that's kind of what I was looking for. She's still a bit concerned in that, again, wood, some things may not last as long as that, so we'll have to make sure that we as a board and staff continue our prior to paint, which is looking at things and making sure that we're ensuring that paint isn't deteriorating before that 15 years comes up. So those are my responses. Anything else on that? Fantastic. Let's move along. So we're now agenda item 10, the CEO report. Siobhan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President. Honorable President, members of the board, I would like to provide some updates this morning. First of all, from the Recreation and Special Events Department, I want to let everyone know that the 2023 annual reservation lottery is underway. You can reserve your 2023 dates at village facilities for special, and club events by picking up lottery cards in the recreation office or emailing a reservation request to recreation@vmsinc.org. Please return completed lottery cards requests by 5 p.m. on Friday, July 15th, and participants will be notified of secured reservations by September 1st. So again, the key date is Friday, July 15th. Recreation also wants to remind everyone of 4th of July festivities that are coming. Celebrate Independence Day with a golf cart parade and festivities at Clubhouse 2. The golf cart parade starts at 11 a.m. at Clubhouse 5 and ends at Clubhouse 2. Parade registration is available using the ActiveNet online reservation system. The festivities at Clubhouse 2 include a performance by the band Stone Soul. Resident bands will also be performing until 6 p.m., and children activities take place from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District reminds the village that it is National Mosquito Control Awareness Week. The district educates and protects the village against vectors and prevents vector-borne diseases. For information and resources regarding mosquito control, the invasive Aedes mosquito, becoming a neighborhood advocate, West Nile virus updates, and more, visit ocvector.org. They also passed on some tips that they would like us to share with the community. They encourage residents to apply mosquito repellent to exposed skin before going outdoors, wear long sleeve shirts and long pants, and opt for lighter color clothing. Close unscreened doors and windows to prevent mosquitoes from entering your homes. Dump and drain water-filled containers and plant saucers weekly, and clean and scrub bird baths and pet water bowls weekly. At this juncture, I wanted to share a few key VMS staff promotions that will involve our board members as they go about their day-to-day activities. First of all, I'd like to recognize Michaela, who has been promoted to our corporate secretary position. Michaela joined us in January as assistant corporate secretary. She came to VMS with previous community association experience, having assisted with management of multiple communities and conducting board and community meetings. In her new role, Michaela coordinates board meetings, prepares meeting agendas and minutes, and handles board elections. Next to Michaela is Paul Wen, who has been promoted to assistant corporate secretary. Paul has been employed by VMS for 6 years, most recently serving as administrative coordinator with the compliance division of the Security Services Department. Paul's knowledge of governing documents and village operations allows him to provide strong support to our boards of directors. So please join me in congratulating both Michaela and Paul on their new roles. And on behalf of the Financial Services Department, I'm pleased to share the recent promotion of Pamela Jensen, CPA, to Controller. Pam joined VMS in November 2021 as Accounting Manager. She previously served as Controller for 2 companies over a 17-year period and worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for 18 years, advancing to the level of Audit Director. Pam oversees accounting, payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and audit and tax functions in her new role. And as VMS Director Unger mentioned, the Employee Excellence Awards recently occurred. The Employee Excellence Awards highlight outstanding employees who demonstrate excellent customer service, achieve great results on projects, and regularly go above and beyond their regular job duties. On May 25th, the Excellent Award recipients, can you please show the list on the screen? Were honored at a recognition ceremony held at Clubhouse 7. And I'm going to ask you to please join us in recognizing these outstanding employees for their contributions to our community. And Paul's putting up the list for us. Well, I don't want to keep everyone waiting. I can just read off their names very quickly. In financial services, we recognized Erica Hernandez. Here we go. And then in Human Resources, De La Landetta. In Landscaping Services, Maribel Flores and Juan Yocab. Media and Communications, we recognize Elise Rothrock. Recreation and Special Events, recognize Tom McCrae and Jennifer Murphy. Security Services, recognize JJ Abomolaki. Damage Restoration, recognized a team of employees, Dara Diem, Jose Saha, Christopher Kubota, Julio Romero, and Irma Sato. And our General Services Department also recognized a team, Liz Cortez, Gilberto Chagala, and Philemon Flores. So please join me in extending our appreciation to these employees. Thank you. And that concludes my update. Thank you.
Thanks, Siobhan. Any questions, board members, for our CEO? Okay, no? And so again, congratulations, Michaela and Paul. Look forward to working closely with you in the future. We're now at agenda item number 11, the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board in one motion. So can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar? Donna moves. Annie seconds. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Any objections to approving the consent calendar? Okay. Ira, looks like Ira's got his hands up. Okay.
Yeah, just one on the page 1 of 8. If you want to change my first name to the letter N, rather than me constantly saying it's been misspelled, it might be easier. Agenda item 11D, page 1 of 8. There's just a typo or a misspelling of my first name. So
Okay.
if you want to just either drop it in totality, which is fine, or use the letter N, that might be easier.
Okay. Okay. We'll get that fixed for you. Don't want you to be called something else. All right. Any other changes requested? All right. Any objections to approving? All right. We'll approve this by consent, the consent calendar. All right. We're now up to agenda item 12, unfinished business. Agenda item 12A, to entertain a motion to approve a revised interboard anti-harassment, anti-abuse, and anti-intimidation policy and charter for a joint hearing body. So this is we talked about it in May. It went back, had some, I think, significant changes. So now it's being talked about again for June. If it's approved here today, it'll go on 28-day notification for member review and comments. I don't know who is somebody going to talk about this, Siobhan, other than?
Sure, I can certainly do that. As you'll recall, the Interboard Anti-Harassment, Anti-Abuse, and Anti-Intimidation Policy and Joint Hearing Body Committee was introduced by all 3 boards in May. And then it also involved input of the VMS board as well. In May, each of the boards introduced the proposal, and everyone had some feedback on the proposal. So we brought the comments back to the committee that consisted of the 3 board presidents, GRF United and Third, as well as the VMS chair. And at that point, the input was considered, and all applicable recommendations were incorporated into the policy. There are some provisions that are guided by law, so they didn't have to be incorporated into the policy. And if the board desires, the policy needs to be reintroduced for 28-day member comments. And again, the intent is to have one cohesive policy that governs anti-harassment, not only at the board level, but involving our residents, the community, and staff. I do want to mention staff is governed by the VMS anti-harassment policy, but that is in concert with this policy. So if a staff is involved, it goes through the VMS anti-harassment policy, but findings would still be shared with this joint hearing body. So with that, the revisions are shown in red line in the attached documents, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right. Does anybody have any questions, comments?
I do.
Okay, Ira, we'll start with you.
What I find missing, we have VMS has their own policy, VMS against VMS or employee against employee. Everything here seems to be geared towards residents or directors against VMS. What I think would be what appears to be missing is when you have a VMS employee harassing a director or a resident, that there is no clear or method, at least in our packet, of resolution, or with regards to the deciding body would be VMS, it appears to be at this point, which I think that most residents might view as the fox guarding the hen house. It's a bad analogy, but I couldn't think of another one. As well as on page, on attachment 2, there are no guidelines for penalties. As far as there's ranges, but there doesn't seem to be a recommended penalty for a first offense or a second offense. It's all very arbitrary. And even for any kind of penalty out in the real world, as far as a judge and jury or just a judge alone, there are guidelines for each type of offense. Whereas if someone comes forward and a director just doesn't happen to like this person, they can go for the maximum. And I don't think that's any kind of guidelines at all. So I'd like to see those two items addressed.
All right, thanks, Ira. Anybody else have comments before I bring? Hey, Jules, you have some comments. Hopefully, we'll start succinctly, right?
Everybody here knows what I think of this terrible policy. It's an attempt to criminalize perfectly normal conduct. If I were convicted of following a staffer around to make a point, which is a violation, or sending too many emails, I guarantee it would wind up before a Superior Court judge. It's so unnecessary. It has a single purpose: to protect staff from the unpleasant task of putting up with members who refuse to take no for an answer. Those poor staffers. But it's much worse than what I previously wrote, because it has a built-in conflict of interest. The decisions are made by a panel of 2 members from each of 3 boards, VMS, United, and Third, apparently to assure that each mutual has a say in prosecuting or protecting their own members. But if staff accuses a 3rd member or director of harassment, the 3rd judges are disqualified. So just VMS and United judges decide the case. But VMS is the staffer's employer. So they're much more likely to lean in favor of the staffer's favor. That's unfair. What happened to the good old American tradition of being tried before a jury of your peers? In the example I cited, all the peers reside right here in Third, yet we're prevented from protecting, as it were, our own member directors. The folks we live amongst, most United members don't know what's going on over here, and the staffers' own employers are going to decide our fate. That's also unfair. To justify granting police powers, and this is a police power, this and harassment policy, the Constitution requires a two-step inquiry. 1, finding that a problem actually requires a legislative fix, and 2, finding that the fix is reasonable. Here, neither is satisfied. There is not a single bit of evidence that the problem actually exists. So, saying so doesn't cut it. You therefore have a cure in search of a disease. But even if such a problem existed, Converting normal social intercourse into criminal behavior would never be viewed as reasonable in way of fixing the problem. Moreover, prosecuting someone caught in such a web would almost surely enrage them. And that's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to make
Point
enemies.
of order.
We want to
Mr.
assure
President,
peace.
I call for point of order.
Remember, our fiduciary obligation runs first
Hold on
and
just a
foremost
second, just so that we
to
don't
our
interrupt
members.
you. Just so we don't, you can pause for what purpose?
For the purpose of comments, not for purposes of giving, Director Zalon seems to be reading a thesis or something, and this is for discussion, not his, whatever he's going on. I just think he's exceeded his time for giving his comments.
There are no particular amounts of time, and in fact, it is my comment, and it is my opinion, and it's very strongly held opinion, and I understand that you don't like it, and you're entitled to your opinion also, Annie, but I will continue.
Thank
you for
President
interrupting
Laws.
me.
I've made my
Right.
motion.
Okay, let's go.
I hear you, Andy.
Remember, our
Thanks.
fiduciary obligation runs first and foremost to our members. And one thing is for sure, this staff-inspired, staff-created policy is not primarily intended to protect all these elderly folks that comprise our constituency. It is clearly intended to enable staffers who are probably half our age to keep all these annoying, old, pesky folks from bothering them. It is therefore just mean. For goodness sakes, let's put this horrid policy out of its misery, out of our misery. Let's kill it now.
Thanks for your comments. I don't believe it was developed by staff. I think as CEO Foster mentioned, it was developed by the presidents of the boards. You mentioned that if somebody from third was accused, then they would be heard by a panel of United and staff. And it's not United and staff, it'd be United and GRF. Staff reports all of us, including third. We identify a VMS board. We pick members of the VMS board, as does United, as does GRF, and they help guide staff, but they work for all of us. So appreciate your opinion. I do that. I think the policy is appropriate, although I see some flaws in it personally, but I see some flaws. Yes, Julie?
Just to make sure, I wasn't accusing it of United and staff. I was saying United and VMS.
Okay, to me, VMS and staff are the same thing. So VMS, maybe you need to be clear on, or help me understand if you meant the VMS board or the VMS, the organization that does all the operational work for us.
No, I was saying that in the event a third member or director is accused, then the panel is made up of the two VMS judges and the two United judges.
No, that's so you need to look at this again. It would be 2 from United and 2 from GRF. Okay, so the 3 boards or the panel are third, United, GRF. VMS is not included. Okay.
Thank you.
So, all right.
Well, I was just going to clarify the makeup of the joint hearing body, which you did. That's on page 12 of 18. And then the reason third would not be on that panel is because if there's an appeal, the appeal is to the full third board by the appellant. Just want to clarify that. And again, this is an inter-board policy. Staff was not involved in its development.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Thanks. Any other questions, comments? All right, I have a few that I'll bring up. But just again, I think the concept is fine. Trying to do what we can to minimize and manage harassment, abuse, intimidation is a good thing. But I find this a little bit too open to interpretation. It's a little vague. Using even some of Jules' comments of whether some of his standing up in open forum over a period of months, commenting on specifically certain board members, whether that would be constituted harassment or not. I think it's a little open for interpretation and would like to see it rewritten from that perspective. But that's my perspective. So I'm going to ask, maybe at this time, let's get some comments before we vote on it. And just in case that helps. So Paul, if you could go with that.
We have comments from the floor.
That's right. So that's what I'm asking. That's why let me be clear. So before we vote, Paul, if we can have the comments from the floor.
We have John Jacob first, 5302.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen and members. I have a comment regarding the employees that are now being honored and being spoken about. I had 4 incidents. One, I purchased the property at 5302 Contante. I had an 8-foot wide, 8-foot high wall board. The drywall was missing from behind the cabinets that were there when I bought the property. I contacted the structural people at VMS, and a gentleman came out, 2 of them, and with 2 sheets of drywall, we're going to install it. And before they started to install, they were nailing up a piece of 1x2 to support it. And I said, don't you think you got to follow the code? I mean, fire stops in the wall. The drywall is missing, and I don't know who tore it apart, but it certainly was missed on the first inspection. I then went to, I think his name was Johnson, Johansson, whatever his name was, who was in charge of structural. And he said there was no inspection of the buildings by the first inspector on the inside.
So I'm sorry, I'm just going to interrupt. Are you going to get to something about anti-harassment,
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Then please continue.
The 2 people that came out to install the drywall, when I asked about, are you going to put the structural supports? That's harassment in his opinion. He called his office, walked off the job, and I was left there standing. Then I went further, and they came back. I put in fire stops and put a 2x3 to support the drywall, and it was completed. The next time, my car was on the driveway. An employee is cutting the grass. Another employee is using a blower, and he blows all the thing into my open windows on my car. This way, your windows should be closed. Okay, I'm not going to file a complaint with anybody. I have a palm tree that I'm trying to move down from the entrance of the property. Too heavy for 1 man to lift, and pretty too heavy for even 2 men to lift. Your gardeners, again, were in present at the time. They said, get that thing out of our way. I said, wait a minute, this is too heavy to be lifted. We're rolling it down to put it out of the way so we can get into the property. Well, you shouldn't have done it now. Okay. I had 4 incidents like this. I don't see where the staff is being abused. I think the residents are being abused. And if you gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen want to make a situation where you can argue about yourselves, that's fine. But why bring the
Speaker time has
members
ended.
in?
I had interrupted him, so I was letting him continue just a second or 2. Okay. Appreciate your comments, Mr. Jacobs. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next speaker is Steve, excuse me if I mispronounce it, Newberger of 3312 Unit C.
Before I talk about that, there was a disconnect when the lady in the purple was speaking. She said something about how the response time for the painting, and she said they were talking about interior painting and the delay was exterior painting. I don't see the connect on that. But to talk about the anti-harassment policy, I don't think we really need it. You You guys want to rewrite the rules for what's harassment. I grew up in the hood in Detroit, and I kind of speak with vulgar language sometimes. And if I said to somebody, what the fuck are you doing? That would be harassment. We have a right to speak and to be heard. And if you guys don't want to hear us, you call that harassment. If you turn your back on us, say, I'm done talking to you, I don't want to hear you anymore, and I keep talking, you would call that harassment. And it's not. We just want to be heard. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, I hear you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Leslie Palm of 3494 Unit B.
Thank you for having me. First, I'd like to congratulate Jules and Chris on being on the board. I really do appreciate your summaries of some of the things that we should be paying attention to. All right, I just read the thing on harassment, 18 pages long. I would not have read that without some prompting from you. Thank you. All right. I think a timely response, first, timely response to residents, and second, empowering employees at all levels to use their common sense would go a long way to address the concerns and alleviate the feelings of frustration that our residents and maybe some of the board members feel. I feel that, management and staff need more training in customer service, and you need more team building. I know this as former personnel director in one of my lives, that this is required to have these types of exercises every year for your employees. And I think you should make it mandatory for all levels from the top down, and that you should all get along better. And the employees who are on the front lines in landscaping and stuff like that should also have this training. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Director Tao of 2306 Unit B.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and congratulations to the new members. I'm here speaking in support of this Interboard Anti-Harassment, Anti-Abuse, and Anti-Intimidation Policy and Charter for the joint hearing body. As you just mentioned, the president just mentioned, the joint are the three companies, the GRF, the United, and the Third Mutual. Jeff Bowman, HOA lawyer, wrote the charter and the policy based on the current law, and the revisions were based on all boards' input. The definitions stated in this policy are based on the definition stated in the law. The current process for harassment hearing are taking 2 to 3 months or longer to come before the respective boards. And each board has a slightly different policy. This is not something new, it's just some consolidation. Now, all harassment policy include directors, committee members, etc. There are numerous situations where harassment occurs, but these are not being brought to the respective board at all. We had situations where a board member harassed employees and other board members, but the policy was not followed. This type of conduct impacts all of us. Therefore, we need a consistent and timely method of taking care of these situations. The advantage to staff and the residents is that there is one policy applicable to all boards, and there is only one hearing board. This provides consistency across all boards, and the hearings are conducted in a more timely manner. Currently, we are fighting inflation, high insurance premiums, difficulty recruiting, and high turnover rates. With this policy and charter for joint hearing body, we are providing the right tools to be more efficient, reduce legal fees, and boost employee and board member morale so that all owners and residents benefited. I'm in favor of this policy and joint hearing body. Thank you. And by the way, yes, we definitely need more training for our employee. Employee need to be courteous, and there's a lot of training, and we're working on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Wei Ming.
Next, we have Director Isaacs from 5194.
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm going to address this from the standpoint of being a scientist. We are creatures of our biology. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we live this long, but we have aging brains. We do not know each other's genetic background. We do not know our health background. So we cannot predict when dementia will strike and affect our behavior. I have seen mainly good behavior from most people, but I've also seen egregious behavior against staff where a member screamed, "You work for me." That may be true, but that's not the way you engender. You are part of us. Therefore, work with us because you are us. Our longevity is the longevity of BMS. That's not how we get collaboration. And my standpoint on this is purely economic. Any cost to members because of unnecessary lawsuits due to an environment that is considered hostile to workers when now it is an employee market is something I would support. I am a reluctant supporter, but my observations lead me to support this. In a perfect world, we would not need this. We would not age. We won't have aging brains, but we do not have a perfect world. So the thing is not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but to ensure that this far-reaching document is protective for all, for board directors, for members, and for workers, and not be draconian. So work on it. Make it perfect. Every time you tweak it, you have another 28 days to ruminate over it and make sure it works for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily.
Our next speaker is Director Carpenter of 5361 Unit P.
Thank you. I didn't write a speech, but I've been listening to a lot of remarks that people say here. But to Nathaniel, basically, I want to remark to him the reason that this policy doesn't include, monetary fines or the investigation. But there are separate policies. Everybody has approved your monetary fines for all of the issues that are in violation of the GRF laws. So it's not in this policy. Okay, the other one is the policy does address investigations. And so those investigations are brought to the hearing. So basically the law says that GRF or any of the boards are obligated to investigate all harassment claims. And with that investigation, basically it's brought to the board and it's evaluated. And that's exactly what this policy says. We're not writing a policy for criminal harassment. We're writing a policy that actually states the law, the current law. And if you don't have this policy, you have another policy that has already been written, and you come to the separate hearing board. So the only thing we're changing here is to have a consistent policy across the boards and one hearing board. So I urge you to pass this, and if there are some minor changes that you want to add to it, we welcome that. But this is being supported by staff, this is being supported by the boards, and your vote today also impacts GRF. And I have to tell you that basically being on GRF and being responsible for all the amenities, I have to tell you, you have no idea how much harassment, how much yelling at the staff goes on. And so all we're trying to do is to create more civility within our community in these changing times. So thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
The next speaker is Bill Fisher of 5541 Unit A.
Good morning.
Good day.
I just came from Garden Center 1. I've had the experience of working with some people there that just put out a bunch of rules. I believe Annie McCary is on the Community Activities Committee. Am I right or wrong?
Maybe, but
I'm
be
just
that
curious,
as it may.
because I wanted to give her a compliment if I could. But anyway, this set of rules, the anti-harassment policy that's coming out, is a policy that looks like it will enable all VMS employees to harass the residents because, for example, I was talking to an employee in the garden center about the rules that were coming out, and I said, how do you feel about the rules giving you more work? And the response was, well, most of the rules are written there and give us the work anyway. And I said, well, yeah, 51% makes most. And the resulting answer was the employee looked at me with an expression that I couldn't interpret, and then they walked away. And if I would have followed her under this rule and said, hey, you didn't answer the question, under this rules, I would be harassing her. And so she would be able to use the rules to bait me and harass me. If you called someone yourself as a director at the VMS board or an employee or anyone more than, let's say, 2 or 3 times, you would be harassing them if they didn't like it. So I encourage you to look at this so that you don't end up with a policy that enables employees of VMS or anyone to use this as a bludgeon to harass the residents. So I think it's just over the top. The 2020 anti-harassment rule is good. If you had better management policies that said, well, if somebody calls you, send them to me. If I'm the boss, don't talk to them. Your employees can do a better job if they're enabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Our next speaker is Director Millman from 9693U. I'm sorry, 3.
I believe there's a policy that the staff has to follow. And I think that to clarify for us, it would be helpful if we understood that staff has an anti-harassment policy that's very strong, anti-harassment to residents and directors. And I think it might be a good idea, since we're debating ahead of the vote, ahead of the motion, that we hear a little of that from our CEO.
That'd be fine.
Yes, Director Millman is correct. I mentioned that, I think, in my prefacing comments, that VMS has its own anti-harassment policy. It's applicable to employees, and it was developed in late 2020, so it's current with the existing law. We have a very documented flow chart that shows the process. I've shared that at closed session. I'd be happy to share that again this afternoon in closed session. But every instance of harassment is evaluated and investigated to the extent that is necessary. And at the end of that process, applicable disciplinary action is imposed if it is warranted. Thank you.
Thanks, Joan. Thanks, Siobhan.
Our last comment is via email. This is from a board member, from a resident at building 3024.
And his name is?
Let's see.
Or her name is?
This member requests that their name not be given out, but if you wish, I can give them their name.
Why don't you read it without the name for the moment?
Okay. Dear Third Board, thanks for the opportunity to comment about the proposed harassment policy. The policy addresses harassment by directors toward VMS staff, fellow directors, and residents. And it also addresses harassment by residents towards VMS staff, directors, and other residents. However, conspicuously absent from these 6 harassment scenarios of who harasses whom is where VMS employees harass directors and members. There is more opportunity for VMS to harass directors and members because VMS has such frequent contact with directors and members. Examples of VMS harassment of directors and members would be, scenario 1 is VMS denying directors and members copies of records permitted by Davis Sterling. VMS disclosing the identity of members who file complaints about other members. VMS refusing to read certain member comments at board and committee meetings, and VMS exercising enforcement, overreach, and railroading members into disciplinary hearings. At a recent third board meeting, staff indicated VMS will not be part of this policy because VMS has its own in-house policy. Any such policy is likely skewed to protect VMS. If VMS wants to be an honorable participant in the community, it should have no objection to signing on to the policy. VMS employees get 43% of our budgets for wages. Agreeing to not harass directors and members is the least they can do. With due process be included in this policy, VMS position has been that due process is not provided. That should worry everyone. Failure to embrace due process paves the way for harassment such as kangaroo courts and the railroading of innocent people. What reason could there be not to write due process into the policy or into thirds rules? Due process is the law in courts. Why would we not want due process in our hearings as well? A hearing is like going to court. Due process is how you get the truth. Please vote to include VMS harassing directors and members in the harassment policy, and please vote to include due process in the policy or or elsewhere in the HOA's governing docs. Thank you.
Thank you. One more.
Good morning, Susan Smallwood, and congratulations to our 2 new board members. And I hope that all of you will be able to work together for a better community. Regarding the harassment situation, I've been helping a neighbor for the last 3 years who's being horribly harassed by another resident. And it goes through compliance, but nothing is being done. She continues to be harassed. So this is a situation where if you are going to put something together, then it really needs to be making sure that this statement of see something, say something is pitting residents against each other. And it's not creating harmony, it's creating a lot of anger, health problems for this one woman, and I'm very concerned for her well-being. And I would really like to see that something be done on behalf of the residents being taken care of, because we are an aging community and sometimes our brains don't click just right. I know for a fact mine doesn't sometimes, but anyhow, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Smallwood. All right.
Mark, if I just make a comment that may actually help.
Yeah, I was going to open up to comments final before we voted anyway, so go ahead.
2 points. Someone suggested that this is merely what the law is. It really isn't. It says following around someone to make a point can be a violation. That's not the law. Unreasonable telephone calls or emails, that's not harassment. That's not the law. On the other hand, Bunny, I think it was Bunny, made a very interesting comment. She said, there's a lot of harassment that we hear that you know about. Well, the problem is we don't know about that. The point is that constitutional due process, the last point, requires that there really be a reason, a factual reason for the legislation. And right now, all we're told about is that there is a problem. So if there really is a problem, then we should turn this thing back, reject it, and start all over again to hear whether there really is a problem and how it should be resolved. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Thanks. Anybody else have any comments? Yes, Chris?
This question is for Siobhan. My concern is that this policy would stifle discussion and expressing of opinions. For example, during the campaign, we had email blasts coming from like the Alliance Group, GGC, the Good Governance Group. Could those be considered harassment if somebody doesn't like what is being said or is opposed to what they have to say?
You know, I think there's a reasonableness standard that, you know, generally people can put up with a certain level of interaction and so forth. It's, you know, when it crosses that line, and unfortunately, a line may be different for you than it is for me, that it is for someone across the room. And so, you know, nothing, whether we have this policy, the existing policy, could prevent someone from saying, I feel harassed, unfortunately. You know, whether it has merit or not, we can't prevent that.
Yeah, no,
we can do our best to
understood.
be civil in our discourse and our interactions, and
No, understood, but that's the question. You know, what is the line? And who interprets that line?
All right. I see Ira has his hand up.
Yes, I would like to see this policy go back for refinement. I think overall it's a good idea for everybody to be on the same playing field. But I think it has many of the comments from the residents today even show my concern is that there's a gray area, a weak spot, especially where VMS harasses a resident. Also, as I said before, in the attachment 2 of the anti-harassment policy, the judgment of what kind of penalty should be put out is just very vague, undefined for first or second penalties. There are no guidelines. There's just a very large range. It's like saying that your penalty is jail between 1 year and 20 years. That's a very wide range, between $25 and $500. So I think that this is a good start, but we need some refinement to remove as much as possible the objections of the community, especially where there seems to be a bigger concern of VMS harassing residents, or as one gentleman put it, VMS baiting a resident into harassment because it seems to be so easy to bring up. And that's all I really have to say.
Okay, so were you making a motion to send this back?
Yeah, I can make a motion to send this back for refinement.
Okay, all right. Got it? Okay. I-
The reason I want to speak again is because what I'm hearing right now is there's not a clear understanding, between the residents and the people that are speaking as to what is actually the law, okay? And so nothing in this anti-harassment is, and regardless of what Jules says, it is stated in the law. Now, I want to explain to you, and I explained to Nathan in here, that the monetary fees are not included in here. They wouldn't be. And also to say that this hearing is just a hearing, and it's not a trial. So the other thing is that everything is investigated. So yes, there are people that come out there and make false claims. We know that. So that's why we have people investigate it. So it clearly says that it's investigated. So I just think that this misunderstanding, okay, I've got to say something else. VMS goes by different laws, okay, than the boards. And that's why VMS cannot include their harassment policy as part of our harassment policy. They come under different rules. I think what is it, Siobhan? CI, and we are Davis Sterling and HOA. So we need to separate that what we are doing and what we are abiding by is by the law, and the confidentiality that is given to VMS employees if there is a harassment is by the law. So all of these questions, like due process, let's be, more open and all this kind of stuff, we still have to look at what the law is. And that's what we're doing.
Thank you. Donna, I saw your hand first.
Yes, if I could just help clarify for our members who are here today and possibly listening. Some of the discussion sounds like we are starting from scratch with a blank piece of paper. I believe Director Foster said, we have an existing policy already. This isn't brand new. We have an existing policy, and each board has an existing policy. And so if you could clarify for everybody, because my understanding as a board member was the reason we are doing this is not to create something from nothing. We have something. It's to have a commonality across all the boards so that we can apply things equally rather than having, well, let's see, if you're in United, there's this nuance or that nuance. So I just want to clarify, because what I'm hearing in the member comments is not understanding, and I understand why there is no understanding. We have a policy. It exists. There have been policies for each of the boards, and the purpose of this and bringing it forward now is to have one policy that's the same across the board. Will it be perfect? Probably not, but then again, what is? But it's a start. So I hope that helps, and if you could clarify that even further.
This board adopted an anti-harassment policy on April 21st, 2020. It is resolution number 03-20-27. And as part of the resolution, we would ask you to repeal that resolution and put this interboard policy in its place.
Thank you both. Annie?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. And I sit on the compliance hearing, and I'm speaking for this anti-harassment policy. I see residents coming in with complaints, and I see how the process actually can work and how it actually does work. I know that there's no way that we can include every single event with every single scenario, because like Leila Isaac said, we're individual people. We think differently. And so to give the impression that every single event for every single person is going to be included in a policy, it is not going to happen. And like I said, I sit on the committees and I see how the process works. And I just make a motion that we, adopt this policy and put it on a 28-day notice.
Thank you. Do I get that motion seconded by anyone?
I have a comment.
Right, but we have a motion being requested, seconded by Ralph. Jules?
One of the problems I see here is that it is investigated. And I have written substantially on some of the absolutely unbelievable prosecutions of important people, directors, task energy, chair people, and members who were I'm not going to get into it because it would be too complicated and it's irrelevant. But the point is that the investigation, the fact that it's investigated doesn't really mean a thing. Maybe what we really need is somebody who has appoint someone, a lawyer, someone who has great respect in the community to allow these things to run under his or her nose in order to determine whether the matter really deserves to be investigated, because the investigations have been a farce, and the people that essentially determine these things very often rubber stamp. And I will not tell you why, but I've written about them. So most people on the board know why. There has to be some protection. There really has to be due process, whether it's criminal or whether it's civil. There really has to be a process so that someone who utters an expletive, for example, against someone is not accused of humiliation. Oh, you're a something or other. Oop, that's humiliation. That's a violation of the policy. That shouldn't happen. We need some structure, and this does not provide it.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion on the table to approve this and submit it forward for 28-day notification for members. All in favor of that, raise your hand. All right, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. All opposed, raise your hands. So Jules, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I see Ira's hand up. Ira, you're, just for clarification, in case your hand was up earlier and I missed it, you're raising your hand for opposing?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Or no, depending on your point of view.
Okay, all right. All right. So the vote seems to be 5 to approve it, 6 to not approve it, to go forward. So regarding the vote to not send it forward, should we let it die or send it back? Is that something that we can do? Have a motion to regarding that, or do we just move on?
We should just move on.
Okay, I hear you. Is
And
anybody?
then, to clarify, we then continue under our existing policy.
Okay.
Is that correct?
That is, if that's what we as a board choose to do versus.
Well, we have an existing policy, and we didn't vote to take that away. So
That's right. That's right.
I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah, so
there is a
until
policy.
something else takes its place, we have the existing policy. What I'm trying to understand.
Policy is not an issue.
Okay, what I'm trying to understand is that what this board wants to just go back to the existing policy, or retry to work to create this common board process that has been worked on for the last several months?
We could create something brand new. We don't have to go back to something that is so inherently infirm. We can start our own.
Ira,
and I propose to.
Ira?
Yeah, I'd like to see it go back. I think that it has merit to bring all the boards together. I just would like to see it a little more refined in some areas, so that we don't get people coming forward saying, VMS is going to bait me, or whatever the case may be. We need a little bit more defined guidelines. I don't want to see everything go to be investigated where it's unnecessary. And that's why I'd like to see, like I said, I don't want to see it die. I think bringing all the boards together is a good thing. I just want to see a little bit more efficiency or clarity in this particular document before we approve it.
So are you creating
I'll
a
make
motion to, are you creating a
Yes,
motion
I'd
to?
like to make a motion.
Okay.
Yes, I'd like to send it back to refinance.
Okay, anybody second that? Jim, you're seconding that? All right. All right, we'll now vote on whether to send it back to the committee, if they're willing to take it, or letting it die right here, right now. So votes for sending it back to committee, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so 8. So doesn't matter how many no votes or abstentions there are. So we'll agreeing to send this back to committee. All right, that was fun. Let's move on to the next agenda item. And again, thank you all members for participating. Appreciate that. Now entertain a motion to approve the revised alteration fee schedule. I'm not sure if somebody's going to talk about this or from staff.
Bart is.
Oh, Bart. Oh, hey there, Bart. Oh, okay, you're hiding in the back.
I am. Good morning, Mr. President, directors. As you recall, the current fee schedule was originally approved back in 2017, and that document is the one that we are currently using whenever we receive requests for mutual consents or variances. When that original schedule was developed, it probably did not take into account the actual amount of work that it takes to process individual mutual consents and variances. The report before you and its attachments attempt to reflect now a more current reflection of the actual cost to process each one of those specific items, mutual consents and variances, as well as resales inspections. I should note that the current fee schedule is the standard schedule that we utilize for both mutuals, for United and for Third. Should this item be approved, we will have two different sets of schedules that we will be applying, one that will be specific to Third and one that will be specific to United until United board decides to review and also revise their own fee schedule. So in your attachments, your attachment number 3 reflects our current fee schedule without any revisions or modifications, which is the one that I just referred to a minute ago as the one that we are using to process mutual consents and variances. Following that is our financial analysis that breaks down how we arrived at the various fees that will be applicable to each one of those actions, whether there is a resale or there a mutual consent or a variance. That goes into detail. It was at the request of the directors and also members of the community that were consulted and provided their input. It should be noted that a number of the items that you see listed there had received extensive input from directors and members of the community as well. And we listened to each one of those and attempted to incorporate those into what we attempt to make a simple way of looking at and referring to a fee schedule without having to go back and forth to different documents. And with that, and for that reason, we propose to you that we have two separate schedules, one for mutual consents and one for variances. And I'll go over that in a moment to explain the reason why. So as part of the fee schedule, we list all of the items that fall under the current list of items that require mutual consents. Typically, those items reflect items that the city will require a city permit, or items that are required to be noted as part of the record documents for each one of the manors. There is a list attached as attachment number 7 of alterations that do not require mutual consents. Those are simple items that typically does not require a city permit, as a result of that, it does not require a mutual consent as well. It's interesting to note, and looking at the history of this, as to the reason why we call them mutual consents. They are actually permit applications, but at some point the board opted to name those permits that apply directly to the mutual as mutual consents to distinguish them from the city. We've looked at each one of these to make sure that there is no duplication of effort. From our review and what the city is doing, the city is reviewing for us items for code compliance. And they look at electrical drawings, structural calculations, plumbing, and related items that have building code requirements. It is the same for other actions that need to be taken. For example, the abatement of hazardous materials. We do not enforce that. We are not the enforcing agency, but we are made aware of that since it affects mutual property. The regulatory agencies that govern the abatement of hazardous materials starts with the city, and then it goes into the applicable agencies such as AQMD or Cal OSHA. We do not duplicate that. We try to simplify the process, but we need to be made aware of that to protect mutual property and residents and workers. On the proposed schedule for variances, we have divided that into 2 types of variances. A basic variance and a complex variance. A basic variance will be, as with any variance, a variance is any work that does not follow any of the adopted standards that the mutual has adopted. And that may impact mutually exclusive or exclusive use common areas and other minor alterations to a unit. It is proposed that with the basic variance that staff be allowed to review those, make a determination that it complies with mutual standards, and that staff approve those as an over-the-counter type of process. What that will do is it will help in the process of processing these variances to now be a much shorter time period that will help move these forward and allow our residents to continue with their alterations as they had intended. Where more complex variances that require or that have work that is either visible from the street or that has an impact on the aesthetics of the buildings, those we bring back to committee for review and approval. And those require more extensive review to make sure that we present to the committee all of the pertinent information for them to make a well-informed decision. The breakdown of the effort is part of the financial analysis that shows that we spend a little more time reviewing those, going through plan checks, doing field reviews, and making an assessment, for example, of the architecture or the impacts to the aesthetics of the different buildings and how it flows or it looks from the perspective of a resident walking by in front of this manor. With that, that concludes my presentation of this item. I am available to answer any questions that you may have. It should also be noted that should the board approve to move forward with this, that we plan on presenting this item to the Finance Committee at their upcoming meeting on July 5th. I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Bart. Appreciate that update. Summary, anybody have any questions for
I do.
Bart? Okay, so it looks like Ira does. Thanks. Go ahead.
Bart, thank you for your explanation. You mentioned you were trying to simplify everything so it'll be easier for the residents, easier for everybody in your office. I'm hoping that some of the language that you have listed here, like man doors, that I am sure that maybe 1/10 of 1% of the people that walk in your office or apply for a permit knows what a man door is. If you use more common language, I think that it will help on your end as well as especially on the end of the residents. And if you could possibly make your list as to what is already approved as long as possible, that also would save a little bit of staff time, people coming in and asking you questions. And thirdly, with a new variance that gets approved, then it becomes something that's been established. Would this then change categories from a complex to a simple variance in the future once it's been done? That's more of what I really want to know. How do these things shift categories? You mentioned that one type of variance is for something that hasn't been done, but once it's been done, would that then shift categories or stay in the same category to go through the same process over and over again?
If I may, thank you for noting that. Man door is a term that is used in architecture, and you are correct that we will change that to a more common term so that it reflects the type of item that it is. In terms of any approved variances, if we were to come back in the future and look at another variance, then we'll look at that one on its own merits, and what has been approved before, just like we do with some of the prior approvals that were done, they're grandfathered in, and that will be either a minor variance. It essentially would be a minor variance because it's already in place.
All right, thanks. Any other questions?
So then it would change categories then the second time around, is what you're saying?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Kush?
Thank you. I'm noticing, I'm not the expert at building and stuff like that, but what I notice is that the proposed fees end at above 10,000. And with some of the alterations, which are almost mansionizing the units, they run in over $50,000 to $100,000. So maybe that's where the higher fees should be levied, as opposed to the lower levels like $750 and $1,000 or $2,000. Those increases are rather rapid. So I remember when I moved in here 6 years ago and I had a $400 thing, my fee was probably like $20 or $40. So it seems like a little drastic for the lower level permits rather than the higher level. I suppose if you're doing a $100,000 renovation, paying $1,000 would be substantial, would be correct. But if you're doing a $10,000 something, and which is very easy, just to put a split unit in your house, it's like $12,000 or $13,000. So here's another $1,000 in permits. So that's how I feel that the permit levels should be adjusted in a way that the lower levels are not drastic, the higher levels could be adjusted that way. That's my opinion.
Okay.
So,
Any thoughts on that, Bart, or should we just move on?
We can entertain a different scale on how we assess the value for the different levels of mutual consent. However, there's some basic information that we need to process, review process that becomes a minimum, and I think that's what that targets the lower level is to address, receiving those documents, processing them, as well as updating the information on the systems that we use to refer to as our database for future reference. As I mentioned, we can entertain a different type of formula, but this one we believe captures, for the most part, the actual time that we spend reviewing and processing the mutual consents.
Okay, all right. Thanks. Any others before I get into mine? Okay, so just because I became president doesn't mean I still don't have lots of questions. So I'll just ask a few of them versus all of them. So what happened to the water heater replacement that I asked about when committee? And I noticed we talked about, I thought that was going to get added in, but it didn't, right?
So, Mr. President, we looked at that, and we met with the city to review the requirements for water heater replacements. And because that requires a city permit, they essentially require that we process a mutual consent for those actions.
Okay.
And so that was the response that we got.
And that's fine. It's just not listed here in your sheet. There's water heater relocation, but not water heater replacement. So I'm going to ask you in your next revision to have either water heater replacement / relocation or a second line, but that's fine. So there's a fee for a first inspection and a second inspection. Does every sale need both inspections?
The short answer is yes.
Okay, all right, okay. I thought that might be the case, but I just wanted to be sure. So it'd be $239 to cover both of those. Got it. So I was looking at this. I'm just going to try to, reading this and trying to figure out how this works. So if I have a very minor change that's such as being done that doesn't require mutual consent, those things on attachment 7, I just do it, don't notify anybody, done. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Then we have standard alterations. So standard alterations, they require, which is attachment 6, they require a mutual consent and may or may not require a permit, correct?
As currently listed, that is correct.
Okay.
There is a footnote at the bottom of the attachment that states that the city may evaluate this at any time and change our assessment whether it requires a city permit or not.
Okay. And that's okay. I'm just trying to, in my mind, go through all this information and understand what I might pay. All right. So, and if no permit is required, do I pay a fee? I couldn't understand that. So you talked a little bit about mutual consent kind of equating to permit. So I don't know if when there's a permit fee legend, if that is for anything I do with a mutual consent, even though it doesn't require a city permit. So I'm getting kind of confused between permit and city permit, I think. Okay, so fences and gates, for instance, no city permit required. It's listed as a somewhat standard alteration. What do I pay? So I guess I fill out a mutual consent since it's a standard alteration. Is that free? I didn't think so.
So This one goes as a valuation, and an assessment is made on the valuation of that work, and the fee is based on that. So let's
Okay.
say, for example, that the work that is proposed to be done with either fences and or gates happens to be between $750 and $2,000, then there will be a fee of $108
Okay.
that we will charge.
Okay, so this permit fee legend, maybe we can change it to mutual consent / permit fee legend, because that's what I was kind of looking for to help figure that out. Are you seeing where I'm looking at the bottom of the
I
page?
do see that.
Okay, so again, I was getting confused between permit and mutual consent. Okay. And then, so just try to clarify, if someone wanted to do a complete interior renovation, removing walls, changing layouts, enlarging the bathroom, those look like they would be basic variances. Do I have to pay the basic variance fee for each and every one of those changes I'm making?
It is a one-time fee for the renovation that you are proposing, and as long as that is not visible from the exterior, that will be processed as a basic variation.
Okay, all right, okay. Good. So if it was a $50,000, I'll get back to you in just a minute, $50,000 renovation with some demolition, most likely, since I'm removing walls and things, I'd have a demolition fee of $700, a permit fee, mutual consent fee of $980, a basic variance fee of $380. That's kind of how I would,
That is
as a
correct.
resident, look at this and figure this out?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Just as a clarification, though, if you're doing a lot of interiors and has a lot of structural, it's going to entail a larger element. So with his example, you're not necessarily going into common area or exclusive use common area, but if you are, then it's going to entail much more work than the basic, correct?
So an extensive renovation may include structural elements that need to be modified. Some of the new renovations that we see now include removing the ceiling and creating vaulted ceilings instead of that, which is common area. We propose that those fall under the basic variation, that they be reviewed and approved at staff level, and that we, on a monthly basis, report to the committee to inform them of the basic variances that staff has processed. That way, everybody is informed.
Okay, all right. So I guess considering Jim's comment and yours, so back to my major inside the house renovation, I'm removing walls. What kind of structural oversight, is that part of the hours and the basic variance
So
cost?
that is one of the things that we looked at closely. And even though we will work together with the applicants, the residents, or the contractors, that if we note on their initial submittal that there is going to be structural work that needs to be done, that they need to provide the appropriate structural drawings to the city for them to review and approve. But we do not do a structural review as the city does, because the city will be looking at it from a code compliance point of view.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that the mutual relegates that to the city.
Correct.
Okay, all right. And finally, you mentioned over-the-counter, but there's about 9.7 hours worth of effort. So I'm assuming that over-the-counter is an approximate time frame. How is there a service level of if somebody submits this paperwork, how long it will take for you to get back to them for?
So that will depend on the complexity of the work that is being proposed. And over the counter, what I meant to say by that is that it is a staff level review of the variance, and that approval will be given at staff level as soon as the documents are reviewed, that we confirm that we have a complete application and that they meet all of the mutual standards. then we will proceed to issue an approval. The length of time, as I mentioned, it will vary depending on the complexity of the work that we're reviewing. Since we still need to, for example, for an extensive interior renovation, we have to consult with existing drawings to compare that to what they're doing and making sure that they comply with all of the mutual standards, like not adding extra bedrooms as a result of that, that their proposed work remains within the exclusive use common areas. We look at the history of that particular manor to see if there are any prior approvals that have been grandfathered in and take those into account. So that takes time to review all that, put it together for each specific manor and application.
Okay, okay, thanks. Ira, looks like your hand is up. Is that still the case?
Yes, it is. Going through this in addition to what you had said, Mark, is it possible that we could get a couple of sample pages so to reduce staff time so people will understand all the fees that they have to go through? They need this basic fee and that basic fee and this additional fee for this type of variance. Something very simple to explain to them for common variances, what to expect monetary-wise, so they don't have to waste staff time at the counter trying to figure out, at least for most things, what it's going to cost them. Secondly, is there any other way that you can get paid? Right now, it's just a credit card. What if somebody prefers to do an ACH for, let's say, their $1,000 for their permit? Is that going to be something that's possible, just to make it easier for people to do? Because right now, it's my understanding and my experience that a person has to wait for alterations, one person to call to get a credit card over the phone, and that's not the most efficient method, I would think. But just kind of, especially if they keep calling and the person doesn't answer, then it just never gets done. So is there some other way that?
So Ira, I'm going to stop you on this one. Just that's not how to pay is not specifically relevant to the policy. I will take the note, however, and work with Bart to get an answer for you. Okay, thanks. Is that all right? So he asked for some. Okay, he asked for some some samples so that somebody doesn't have to read this word by word like I did to kind of figure out what they might have to pay for certain types of things.
And that is a great idea, and I think we can certainly incorporate that into the process when we submit the variance or the mutual consent packet. And we will also include that on our city website to further clarify the steps and what would be expected during the different processes that we have.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments for Bart? All right. Can I get a motion to approve this?
Yeah, we have two speakers.
I'm sorry. I failed to bring this up already. So thank you, Paul, for jumping in.
The first speaker is going to be Lisa Mills of 3289 Unit C.
We want to hand out we have a handout for you. We had slides, but we couldn't put them.
Okay.
Put them up, so I just want to make sure you all get them.
We've seen these before. No. Oh.
Am I in the correct mode? Meeting?
Thank you, sir.
You guys all got one? We're good.
Just set it up there.
Hello, my name is Lisa Mills. I currently reside at 3289C San Amadeo. I've lived in the community for about a year now, but I've worked in the community for over 10 years. I work with a lot of seniors here in the village, and over the last 4 or 5 years, the fees that have been taking place here have become way out of scale for what you see in adjacent communities. If you turn to page 2.
Ma'am, could you please speak in the microphone?
Oh, okay, sorry.
Okay.
If you turn to page 2, it's an example, and I'm sorry the audience can't see this very well, but if you turn to page 2, you can see that the city cost for city permits on the bottom is $196 for the city of Laguna Woods, then you go to Lake Forest, Laguna Niguel, and Irvine. In the orange is the current fee that a resident must pay in Laguna Woods for total permits of $173. That's way out of scale for any other permit that you see for adjacent cities. Then you go to the proposed increase before you today, which will increase the fee by 17.9%, which will raise the fee to $208. If you go to page 3, you will see the rate for a normal air conditioning heating replacement system for something over $10,000. Currently, a resident here in Laguna Woods will pay $881 for a permit. When you raise this fee, it's going to go up 31%, and we'll raise that rate to $1,161. That's astronomical. You can see what the adjacent cities do. Now, one thing I didn't comment on the side on permit processing days, in this village, it's taking up to 2 to 3 weeks to process a permit that's combined for city and the HOA. The HOA has been they're trying to increase the effort. I'm not criticizing the staff. The staff here is so overwhelmed because they're taking on the role of a city, not an HOA. They're trying to do a lot of city-related items that they really shouldn't be doing. Windows and sliding doors. Currently, a resident will pay $849 for windows, and it will go up to $1,129. The last item I want to talk about is solar panels. If you put in a solar panel here in the city of Laguna Woods and HOA, it's going to cost you up to $1,430. State law doesn't allow more than $450. The system isn't working here. It really needs to take a step back, start over. We've gotten really cumbersome and really time-consuming here. The process is 3 steps, where most cities it's 1 step. I'm here to help, and Judith will finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mills.
Good morning, members of the board, staff. My name is Judith McCourt, and I live at 3465B. I have been a resident of Laguna Woods for approximately 2 years. My mother has resided here for over 20. I would like to start with slide 6, which will review the permit process. Currently, as you can see, there's a 3-step process in Laguna Woods, which it involves submitting the request to alterations, taking the HOA, then approval to City Hall, and finally returning the city inspection to the HOA to complete the file. In other cities, it's literally an over-the-counter process, which means you go to the city, you request the permit, an on-site review, and the permit is issued the same day. So that's what on-site review means for the cities that we showed. If you turn to page 7, we'd like to put this in context of who lives in Laguna Woods. You will see here this data is taken from the U.S. Census. So in Laguna Woods, the average household income is approximately $46,500. For Orange County, the household income is $94,400. In terms of Laguna Woods, the poverty level is 11%, and in Orange County is 9%. So we're putting this financial burden on people in the community who have less resources to pay in cities where actually the permit process costs much less. If you turn to page 8, we'd like to talk a little bit about the complications of the permit process and how much more complicated and involved it is. For example, in Laguna Woods, the disability rate is 15%. In Orange County as a whole, it's approximately 5%. And you can see that broadband access for Laguna Woods is 84%. So while we're doing many, many things to encourage online submittal, it really is not a possibility for many of our residents to do that. And finally, you can see in Orange County the substantial difference of 92%. So what's our ask? Our ask today is on page 9.
we would like to ask you today to consider delaying the approval process, to review and re-engineer the permit process. Ms. Mills referred to the process as broken. We feel that it really is. We feel that there are opportunities here to rework the process. It was mentioned that in 2017 it was looked at that point. Much has happened since that time. The world is a different place. We'd like you to ask you to reduce the redundancy in the permit process, to expedite permit turnaround, to reduce the fees to residents, and to create a customer-centric approach that really reflects the village demographics. I appreciate your time, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. McCourt. Anything else?
There are no further member comments at this time.
Okay. All right. So now, can I get a motion to approve this revised alteration fee schedule and put it on 28-day notice?
I so moved.
Oh, Annie moves. Anybody second? Okay. All right. So it's nobody second. Oh.
No.
By nobody seconding,
it, so I want to make another motion.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to kind of close that one. So that one didn't go anywhere. All right.
Okay.
Kush?
So I would recommend, my comments earlier were almost identical to what, and I don't even know these ladies. Great job on this report. I recommend that we send this back to staff to re-engineer, as they use the word, and bring it back with some proper numbers.
Okay. That's a motion, is it, or a recommendation?
That's my recommendation. I
Okay.
don't think we need a motion to do that.
I think you do. I think we do. So why don't you just move instead of recommend, and we'll move on.
Okay. So
Okay.
I move to send it back to staff and bring it back with some proper numbers.
Anybody second that?
I second.
Chris seconds. Sorry. All right. All in favor of sending it back to committee?
Before that comment, it actually should go back to ACSC.
Sorry, you.
I don't know.
Yes,
You
okay,
know
you're
the
right.
rules.
ACSC and
Yes,
staff.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry. The ACS, which
Okay,
is
that sounds better.
the Architecture Control and Standards Committee. Yes. Okay. All in favor of the motion to send it back to committee? Okay. All right. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. Those that didn't want to vote no or want to abstain, those voting no, raise your hand to not send it back to committee. Okay, we have one.
We have any discussion on it? Or they'll have a discussion before the motion?
You want more discussion? Sure, I'm happy.
Bring out 2 points.
Sure.
In relation to this that strike me. Number one, the cities have taxpayer support. We do not.
Okay.
Anything that is not paid for by the people requesting an alteration is going to have to be borne by the community in general. Secondly, I think that the people requesting more expensive modifications anyway are not going to fall into the low-income category.
Director Engdahl, can you turn on your mic, please?
We can't hear you, Ralph.
I'm sorry, I'm still
Sorry, I
trying
could
to
hear
get
him.
used to this contraption.
Get closer.
Want me to review that all again?
May as well.
Okay, number one, the cities have a taxpayer support basis. We do not. Anything that is not covered by the people requesting a permit will have to be borne by the community in general.
You got your head turned from the microphone.
I'm sorry?
Your head is turned away from the microphone, so we can't hear you. So if you could.
I'm used to looking at the people I'm talking
Yeah,
to. All right, let me do that again. The cities have a tax base that helps cover the cost of things that are not covered completely by the permit process. We do not. So any costs that are not covered by that will have to be borne by the community under general support or whatever. Secondly, the people requesting at least some of the higher modifications are not going to be your low-income people anyway. So I just want to throw those 2 thoughts out.
Thank you. Any other comments before we vote again? Yeah. I thought we did, but I may have been out of order in not allowing for discussion after the motion, so I probably was. So now we'll vote again. The motion on the table is to send this back to the ACSC for review modification before sending it back here. All in favor of that, please raise your hands again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 this time. Okay. Oh, 10, including Ira. So 10. And Ralph, are you abstaining or voting no?
I'll vote negative.
Okay. And Ralph votes no. Okay. Thank you. All right. Moving on to agenda item 13, new business. Okay. So first we have a recommendation. Thanks for hanging around, Kurt. Recommendation to mandate recycled water use, and third, to conform to state and local mandates. I think Kurt's going to update us a little bit on this.
Good morning, or is it afternoon?
Almost.
I was hoping to be able to come up here and tell you what those mandates are, but El Toro Water District has not issued their version of the mandates yet. So the mandates that were put out by the governors are confusing and conflicting. So they are asking for some clarification from the governor's office before they issue their mandates. For instance, the governor said 30%. They said level 3 and 30%. I mean level 2 and 30%. El Toro is already on level 2, and their level 2 is 15%. And there's also confusion about the turf. In my report, I mentioned non-functional and functional turf. There's some contradictions in the governor's executive order on that. With all that being said, in preparation for these mandates that are to come out, the Landscape Committee felt it would be fair to apply the mandates across the board, whereas some of third is potable water irrigated and a vast majority of third is recycle water irrigated. So should the mandates be strict as the governor's executive order is, which is no watering turf, then the community would look uneven. Some of the community would have green grass and some of the community would have brown grass. So the Landscape Committee felt it would be fair to put those mandates across the board. It would also help with the water problem. It would also help with your budget issues. If it is 30%, you would save exactly that much on your water, 30% if you put it across the board. If you did it just recycled water, you would see a very small reduction in your water bill. So this is basically just to make it across the board for all water sources for irrigation.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Kurt?
Yeah, I have just one. For clarification for all of us to understand, what might the cost be to bring back those lawns? Possibly none, I don't know, but that would be a consideration. If we're doing it to reduce water, that's easy to say because we know we have to do that and there's water shortage. But in terms of cost savings, we have cost savings while we're not watering on our utility bill, but would there be any backside to that at the end when we started watering again to bring those lawns back? It's just a question.
That would really depend on what these mandates are. If it's just a 30% reduction across the board, which is part of the mandate, then the turf will probably survive on a 30% reduction. It won't be green and lush, but it will survive. So it would take very little, just some fertilizer, which we normally do anyway, to bring it back. If they talk about no watering, non-functional turf, which is what you have, then it would take some overseeding, et cetera. So it would not be, your savings would be much more significant than the cost to bring the turf back.
Okay, that was the question. I thought we should be aware of all factors. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Ira has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm looking at this as not as a temporary solution, but more of a permanent situation. I don't think the drought's going to go away. I don't think very many people do. I believe that we need the community to move forward at a lower water usage level permanently. This would mean some some plants that we have now would need to be replaced to lower water usage, and the benefit there is that we won't have a problem if something like this arises again. We're already going to be at that level. Also, it will help budgetary-wise, as Kurt mentioned, 30% just off of our following 6 months from July 1st, let's say, to the end of the year, using the Green Book numbers, we would end up saving a minimum of $371,495 for this year alone. That's significant. And then the following year, if we had a flat budget of the same as this year, that would be savings of double that, would be in the $700,000+ range. And that is also very, very significant with our budget being as tight as it is. And as I said, moving forward, you just start to use plants that are lower water usage, better for the area, less maintenance. And as far as the turf, I'm hoping that some of the saved monies can go to turf removal and replacement with lower water usage plants and make the areas more functional for people and prettier. Because if the turf goes brown, it's going to take a lot of water to bring it back. And this way, if we just remove it and replace where we can with flowers, the whole community will look better. That's all I have to say.
Thanks.
I would urge everybody to vote today to basically turn the spigot down by 30%, get ahead of this whole problem, and move forward into the future.
Yeah. Thanks, Ira. Annie, do you have
Yes,
comment?
I just had a question. So I'm looking at the recommendation. So are you looking for a motion from someone to accept your recommendation?
Yes.
Okay, so then I make a motion to approve the recommendation to mandate recycled water in third to conform with state and local mandates.
All right. Anyone seconds?
I'll second that.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Ira seconds. Okay. Any further discussion?
Is it appropriate to add and consider using some of the funds that have been saved, not all obviously, but some of the funds that have been saved to accelerate our turf reduction program?
Oh,
To consider, not to do it, but give consideration, because if we don't mention it, it may get, out of sight, out of mind.
That won't happen, but.
So is the motion okay, or should I amend the motion to?
It's okay.
That's completely up to you.
Yeah, that's
You can amend the motion to add the savings to.
Consider.
Consider.
Yeah, including some of the savings, that's
Okay.
all. Just so it's, boards change and things happen, and so sometimes it's nice to
Okay,
have it
as
in the
long
forefront.
as it gets recorded that way.
Did you
You got it, Paul and Michaela. Okay, thank you.
Can we have him repeat the motion?
Can you repeat the motion, please? I unfortunately did not get it.
Okay, that's what I was asking. So I made a motion to accept staff recommendation to mandate recycled water use in third, conform to state and local mandates, and also
Consider.
and consider
The savings.
consider the savings.
To be used towards.
Using some of the savings, because we do want to save money and lower our budget as well.
For turf removal, right?
For
To
turf
removal,
should
yeah.
we say turf modernization?
No, it's turf removal.
Turf removal, landscape modernizations, and, okay. Having fun? Okay, and Ira, you still second that amended?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I'd like to see some of the money's used for that.
Okay, that's fine, yeah. All right, any more discussion on that? Jim?
I had to leave the room for a second. Are we doing the 30%? Is that what we're going for?
No, the motion is to put whatever mandates come out from the state for potable water to apply them to recycled water.
We're not going to go try to do more to get ahead of the game?
That's not on this motion.
I just wondered if that one to be considered.
Just one thing, Jim. My understanding is that within El Toro Water District, which includes us, we are actually ahead of the state anyway. So I'm a little more comfortable with not making it any more stringent. because we are well ahead of where the state is. In some areas, they surpass our usage by multiples.
Okay, thank you. Ira, you have a comment?
Yeah, I think maybe we need two separate motions and not to confuse the issue. I understand what Kurt wants, and I think we should approve. This is just being equitable across the board as far as potable and non-potable water usage in the community. And we'll keep that one to this. I would like to afterwards introduce another motion to go a little further and reduce it 30%. And so we can realize that $371,000 plus for the balance of this year, and be able to reduce our budget next year by almost $750,000 when you compare it with this year, and just use some of that money to replace some plants that will have trouble at that lower level. And so anyway, I would like to keep them separate right now.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion from the board? Paul, do we have any member comments on this topic?
No further member comments.
Okay. All right.
Are we clear with our motion, or do we want to do it again?
So are we asking Michaela to now read it back to us?
This is what I have. Please let me know if you need me to correct it, but I have Director McCary made a motion to accept staff recommendation to mandate recycled water usage for Third Mutual and consider the savings to be used towards turf removal and landscape modernization.
Yeah, well, so my motion was the exact words that are on the approved staff's recommendation to mandate recycled water use in Third, conform to state and local mandates.
Okay, so it was from the staff recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll adjust it
or
so
the
that
agenda.
it's.
The agenda should
And then the one other sentence.
consider using some of the.
Director McCary, do you mind turning your mic on as well? Do you mind turning on your mic?
Oh, sorry, thank you. So you got the first part of the motion. And then also to include, what were your words again, Donna? And consider.
Using some of the savings to accelerate the turf removal program.
Got it.
Okay, I have that. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So now we'll vote on that. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hands. All right. 1, 2, 3. John's 3, 4. I can't count. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So it's 10. Director Wayne stepped out, so it's a 10-4, and 10 in favor of the motion. Yeah, sorry, I said 4. That's confusing. All right. So I'm not sure about process. Siobhan, I'm going to ask for your help. You may not be sure either. Can we bring up another motion now on this topic to? Okay, all right, okay. So Ira, you said you might want to bring up another motion now?
Yes, I'd like to kind of get ahead of this whole thing. The governor's recommendation was 30%. I understand what Kurt said. Right now we're El Toro maybe at 15 or 20.
So
I think as a community, we need to move forward to catch up with what we haven't been doing the last decade. And that is reduce our needs with regards to water moving forward on a permanent basis. And I would like to see from current levels across the board a 30% reduction starting as soon as possible, which would be, let's say July 1st and to be able to realize some of these savings and just consider that our new normal. And that would give us a significant and solid number of dollars to work with to replace turf, to replace plants that need replacing that are inappropriate for this area. So I'm going to make a motion that we we cut across the board, irrigation water 30% starting July 1st as a motion.
All right. Okay. You got that motion? Okay.
Director Lewis, can you repeat your motion? Sorry, I couldn't hear you clearly.
That's fine. I'd like to move that we cut irrigation water usage by 30% across the board for potable and non-potable water starting July 1st.
For irrigation?
For irrigation.
For irrigation only, because I'm already
I'm not gonna,
already only flushing once a day. Sorry, that was too much information. Sorry.
Yes, this is just purely for irrigation water, but both potable irrigation water and non-potable. It encompass the entire community.
Before discussion, we have a motion on the floor.
There is a motion. I just want to make sure, Michaela.
Yes, do we have someone who seconded the motion?
We don't. I wanted.
Okay.
Jim, second.
Thank you.
By Jim.
Okay.
But my question before we vote on it
Sure.
is that, is this an achievable goal?
I need clarification before I can answer that question. All state mandates are based upon 2018 as a baseline. So currently we are at a 15% reduction from that 2018 baseline. So all future mandates that are coming out are going to be based upon that 2018 baseline. So do we want to go an additional 30% from where we're at right now, or do we want to follow the state's methodology?
Okay, then one thing I
go ahead, Ira.
So I'll ask Kurt, if we were to do an additional and get ahead of the state mandate, what do you think the effects would be on our community? Would it be 10 or 15% of some plants being found inappropriate because they use too much water and dying, and then we can just replace those with the money saved and move forward? Or is it going to be, I hate to use the word catastrophic? I don't think it would be, but I'd like your opinion for the board.
I do not believe it would be catastrophic. Your turf will brown if we go another 30%. It will, we call it going into shock throughout the summer. In the heat of the summer, it will brown. It will go dormant. Most of your shrubs will survive. Some of the tropical things that have been planted in the past will probably wilt and die, but a lot of the other shrubs they'll go what we call going into shock. They'll yellow a little bit, but they shouldn't die at 30%.
So we are not talking about 30% total. We're talking of 15 from the state's previous mandate, an additional 30, that would be 45%?
Yes, from where we were in 2018, which is achievable.
So it's a drastic change from 15 to 45.
I hear.
Yeah. Is that what we really want to do?
I had my hand up.
Okay. We're waiting for him to finish. All right. Annie.
I think this discussion needs to be had first at the landscape committee, and then that way the committee can look at, and you can bring this back and we can have a lot more information so that we can, vote, at least me, more intelligently. So I do think the discussion should be had at the landscape committee.
Thank you, Annie. Jules, you had some? Jim, you're next.
An additional 30% is not 30% of 100%, it's 30% of 85%. So it's actually a reduction, not of 45, it's much closer to 40.
Okay. Well, thanks for that math
But
lesson.
still, it's a lot.
All right, Jim?
I just wanted a clarification from Ira. Is it a total of 30% or 30% more? I understood it was 30% total.
Yeah, I would like to see basically 30% off our current budget is basically what it amounts to. Whatever however you want to figure it, numbers are funny depending on where you start. As Jules just pointed out, 30%, 85%, where are we? And more importantly than the actual numbers or the information from Kurt is that, as you said, some of the tropicals will die, and they shouldn't have been here in the first place. But they get to be replaced with more geographically appropriate natives, for lack of a better term, that require less maintenance, less water, some of which only need to be watered once a month in the summer. Otherwise, you'll kill them. This is where we need to go, and without some kind of a big push, I don't think in this community it's ever going to happen. We are behind every other community for the most part that surrounds us with our water management, and that's just the way it is. And part of that is the type of plants we use or we have had for so many years, and we need to change. And sometimes you need a kick in the pants to be able to change. So whatever it happens to be, if it's 30% off of the 2018 numbers, but I'd like to see 30% off of our current budget. And that's my 30%.
Thanks. Jules, you had another comment?
Yeah, I think our membership has been spoiled. We have this New England idea of the beautiful lawn that they used to have in England, and we don't have that here. So maybe actually cutting it as much as we can will give a sort of anticipation to our members that what's going on in the future. If they like our lawns less, they may be training them, educating them that things are going to get totally different, and we're going to take first a brown lawn and then no lawn at all. I'm in favor of it.
Okay, thanks.
It sounds like, from what I've heard, and maybe we have two different motions instead of just one, it sounds like there's quite a bit of agreement on going the extra 15%, in other words, to the 30% total that the state mandates. I'm not hearing much opposition to that, and maybe those opposed just aren't saying. But it's where it seems that the sticking point is going from a total of 30%, an additional 15 or 10% down. That seems to be where the sticking point is. So Annie suggested, and I would support that. I would suggest that we approve going down another 15%. That doesn't seem to be an issue. And send it back to the landscape committee to consider that additional amount and what the impact of it might be. Because we do have a beautiful community, and yeah, we aren't Hawaii, even though we live like that. But we have places to go, and my understanding is that we are actually ahead of many communities. There are places using 200% more water than we are. So as the water conservation chair, it probably sounds strange to hear it from me, but we do need to do our part, and we are doing our part. And so my proposal would be, I don't hear any problem with going down another 15%, which puts us at the state mandate, should they get around to clarifying that. And that the landscape committee consider any additional cuts, which possibly might be specific to certain areas where we intended to do some turf removal anyway. That it just seems like that extra amount might require some thought, because we could do it without having the community look in a negative fashion. So that's my.
All right, thanks. So Michaela, can you do me a favor? Can you read this one more time? We may have to tweak it to.
Yeah, so my apologies if I have it incorrect, but what I had was Director Lewis made a motion to cut irrigation by 30% across the board for potable and non-potable water beginning July 1st, 2022.
All right. So I think it's, if I were to rephrase the motion, would be cut water usage, potable and non-potable, for irrigation to a total of 30%, which is, you may want to put 15% more than today. Is that correct, Kurt? Yeah.
So to a total of 30%?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And then the last few words of that, I forgot as I was talking how you ended yours.
Beginning July
Yeah.
1st,
Okay.
2022.
All right. Okay. Everybody think they can vote on that? Have enough information? All right. So we had nothing external.
Is that what Ira proposed? I didn't understand that to be. I'd just like to know what we're voting on. Ira, were you
Ira, can you confirm that
30% under the 85 or 30% under?
So, what did you propose?
I would like to see it. I would like to see it 30% off of what we're using now, and it will show. I understand Donna's concern about the community not looking so good, and in some areas it may not. There may be certain, but quite frankly, I would like 30% now, and then just take that money and replace those plants that fail. Is what I'm looking for in the future. But if the board only wants another 15% on top of what we're doing, I'll be good for that right now and go back to committee as Donna suggested to assess more in depth what the other 15% would do. We can assess that with Kurt.
All right, so Ira, you made the motion, so I'm going to have Michaela read it back. I would like you to say, yes, that is acceptable, or no, that it is not. Michaela, can you please read that for us?
So I have Director Lewis made a motion to cut water usage for irrigation to a total of 30% across the board for potable and non-potable water beginning July 1st, 2022 with Director Cook, who seconded.
For irrigation.
Yes.
To cut water usage for irrigation?
Yes.
Yes, that is
That
in
was there? Okay. So Ira, you're saying yes, that is your motion?
Yes, we can. Yes, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Mr. President, so that we stay, correct in this, if this went back to the landscape committee, then the landscape director can put it in exactly the right language so that when it's presented as a motion, we know exactly what we're talking about. Right now, we're putting the cart before the horse. We're making a motion from the landscape committee that hasn't met yet. The landscape committee. So this motion should really come out of the landscape committee with the correct language from Kurt himself. So that's the point I was trying to make.
Okay. Yeah, that was kind of what I was asking. If it was okay for me to bring up this additional motions, but all right. Given what Annie just said, any other comments, or I'm going to call it for a vote. Jim?
Well, it's becoming July 1st. We're getting to the point where water is water, and so sending it back to committee and waiting another month and using more water, to me, is a negative.
Okay.
So, to me, I think we should increase it by the additional 15% to a total of 30%.
Yeah, we can.
And just because it is summer.
Okay. So I think I know how you'll vote. Okay. Thank you. All right. All in favor of the motion to cut water usage by an additional 15% to a total of 30% by July 1st for irrigation, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9, yes, okay.
Director Lewis, are you for the, you are for the motion?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so 10, and Annie voting no, okay, versus abstaining, all right, thank you. Okay, I would like to direct the landscape committee to relook at this, and I'm expecting some information at the next board meeting to on this, on your ideas, where you are with this kind of status. Yes, that'd be great. Donna?
Yeah, it would just be that request that the landscape committee consider additional cuts, but consider them judiciously
Prudently.
and where they would best be utilized, as opposed to the flat across the board. I think there's other ways to do it and accomplish the same thing. So that would be the admonition.
Thank you very much for hanging out with us, Kurt. All right, 13B, entertain a motion to approve a revised guideline for financial qualifications. I don't know if anyone's going to talk about it. I can, but I...
Pamela's in the audience if you'd like.
Oh, I keep missing these staff members who hide in the back.
Morning, directors. The resolution before you has been reviewed by both the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee and the Finance Committee, who elected to review the financial qualifications and answer some questions. At the end of the day, the only change recommended by the committees is shown on page 6 of 14, and that is to insert the word U.S. in front of residential and income real estate. That's item B1. So there was quite a bit of discussion, and two of your esteemed committees have weighed in on it, and so the proposal before you today is to accept the two committees' recommendation and make that one change. And when that is accomplished, we will communicate this to the real estate community and members. That concludes my remarks.
Great, thank you. Pamela? Okay, Jim moves to approve this
Second.
recommendation. Annie seconds. She got in before you, Kush, sorry.
Okay, no worries.
All right, any discussion? All right, any member comments?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea to write out instead of U.S. United States, but my question is, then what do we do for foreign people who come into the community? What is the committee's discussed on that, Pam?
So as I recollect, the committee discussed the fact that sometimes foreign nationals have pensions from other countries. They have 1099s, other forms of documentation to verify that they meet your minimum income and asset requirements. And we staff, like the board, tend to take a conservative look at these members. The idea is to protect your financial integrity. And so if there are any questions, we certainly see something, say something, and pass that on to the signers to make a determination.
Yeah, and my further recollection was that the people approving these things were finding it very difficult, along with staff, to value foreign real estate. How much is my castle in Scotland worth, for instance, that kind of thing. So that was part of why we added the U.S. into that. Okay, so thanks for the question, Raquel. Any other questions, comments? All right. Anybody else? Paul? No?
No further member comments.
Sorry, I
at this
just want to
time.
make sure I don't miss that again. All right. Puts us time to vote. All in favor of this motion, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, counting Ira. Okay. Jules is abstaining, and Donna's out of the room for the moment. So, all right. So this motion passes. Thank you, Pamela. And I'm not sure who's talking about the next one. If anyone, I'm looking back to see who's hidden. Next one is a motion regarding the distribution of printed materials. Okay, so Siobhan, do you have anyone to talk about it that's here?
I don't see anyone.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
No, okay, all right. Jim moves to approve. So, having been on the committee that the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee that approved this to send it forward to the board. Mainly it's clarifying things, and the key thing was adding door hangers as a vehicle for distributing printed materials. Okay, so that's it. So Jim moved to approve it. Get a second? Annie seconds. Thanks, Annie. Any discussion on this? Okay, any board members of Paul, anybody outside of the board?
There are no current comments.
Thank you. All right. Ready to put up for a vote? All in favor of this motion, please raise your hands. Okay. Kush is not quite. Nope. Kush no. So looks like we're at 10-1. Kush. No. Are you saying no, Kush, or abstaining?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to clarify that. That's fine. I love that independence. Thank you of everybody. Okay. All right. Now we get to start our monthly committee report. So we'll start with the third mutual committees, starting with the report of the Finance Committee. So Donna.
Okay, and we have some slides. If you could put them up, it would be much more helpful for our members to see those numbers rather than just hear them. And we always begin with the general statement of assessment revenue, non-assessment revenue, total expenses, just a very general what came in and what went out. And as you look at this general slide, you will see that we ended the month, and that was as of April 30th because of the timing of the dates of our meeting, that we ended April 30th with a net revenue of $3,939,000. So let's take a look at where that money was and what it means to us. As we look at the next slide, we always go right next to the operating statement, because our operating budget, that's what we have for us for day to day, and that's what we work from on a daily basis. So very important to go to that quickly. And as you can see, if we look at the revenue from our operating budget, it was $9,534,000. Smaller contribution from non-assessment revenue, leaving total revenue of $10,140,000 against total expenses of $8,814,000. And therefore, we have in our operating fund a surplus of $1,326,000. And so that's very nice. We always have to look at where that happened and how. So let's move on and take a look at our full income statement and compare it to budget. We haven't looked at the budget yet. And so there's the money came in, the money goes out, and let's see how it matched our budgets. Our assessment revenue was equal to budget. Our non-assessment revenue, slightly less, $45,000 less than budgeted, for total revenue of $14,455,000. And as you can see, if you go down to the very bottom, though, our expenses were far less than anticipated as well. So although our revenue was slightly under what we expected, our expenses were considerably under, and we have a variance from budget in our favor, a favorable variance of $2,613,000. As we move on, let's look at the next slide and see what happened. We began last month by showing our favorable, extremely favorable variances in green. They used to be in kind of an orange, and someone asked and said, where are they orange? It looks like it's bad, when in fact it's very good. What is interesting about this month's statement is there are no bars in the other direction at all. So there were no significant variances that were adverse or unfavorable. The biggest variance was outside services of $1,454,000. That sounds good, but of course a lot of that has to do with the timing of payments, the start time of work. Painting starts late, tree trimming starts late. So that is probably going to decrease as the year goes on, but we like it in the direction it's in right now. Insurance came in much more favorably than we had anticipated. That premium was paid June 1st. So we have now paid through to June 1st of next year. And it was more favorable of a little over $500,000. Employee compensation which, as you will see later, is a huge part of our budget. This time it was favorable. That's a good thing and a not good thing because it means we have open positions and we really desperately need them. And our legal fees were also favorable to the tune of $136,000 through more judicious use of legal services. So as we move to our next slide, I always like these pie charts because it's just so much easier to see things. Here we're looking at where does our money come from? Well over half of our non-assessment revenue comes from three big areas: chargeable services, starting at the bottom, moving clockwise, permit fees, and lease processing fees, with laundry revenue not far behind. On a much smaller scale are the resale processing fees, and then these very small, going all the way down to such things as golf cart electric fees. But you can see our non-assessment revenue, the bulk of it, chargeable services, permit fees, lease processing, and laundry counts for almost 3/4 of that non-assessment revenue. If we look at expenses in the same way, and going on to the next slide, we can see that our two biggest, again, almost 3/4 of our budget, our two biggest expenses are employee compensation and related expenses, and our insurance. Utilities, 16%, certainly a nice chunk, but well behind those other two. Outside services and some of the others have a very, very small contribution, but it is always nice to see and look at how those expenses occur. Moving right along, we go to our non-operating budget and our non-operating fund balances, and we have four budgets that we look at. We have replacement funds, garden villa fund, disaster fund, and unappropriated expenditures, otherwise known as our contingency fund. Those things that are going to happen and we just don't know what they are, but we have a pretty good idea what might come up. The replacement funds, as you can see, if you look down, let's go right to the chase. If you look down at the bottom, you will see that our current balances in every single fund are higher than they were at the beginning of that reporting period. And that's what we like to see. We are building them up. The contingency fund didn't build up by very much, by $2,000, but again, things are in the right direction, and that's just fine. And I do like, as we get a little more detail on that, go to the next slide, this just shows year by year the amounts that were contributed. And when it's put in a bar graph like that, you can see very easily, and I love visuals, you can see that in 2022, our replacement funds are much healthier than they were in 2018. And it has been a steady growth every single year, which is what we want to see. Our facilities are aging, and so we need to be ready to take care of that. Our disaster fund, on the other hand, is smaller than it was if you go all the way back to 2018. And you can see that the first decreases occurred in 2020 and the next in 2021, and now it's coming back slightly. What's important, those 2 years, that was when funds were taken out to help pay the very unanticipated huge insurance expense, and it is permitted to take that from the disaster fund. Funds are being put back, but it is important to know when the disaster fund was first set up, that we did not have earthquake insurance, and we do now. So the disaster fund was designed to cover some possibility of earthquake damage, which it no longer needs to do. So all in all, fairly healthy. And I never like to neglect our Garden Villa Recreation Room Fund. And if you look at the very, very top and go across, you can see a thin kind of an olive green line. It's very skinny, but it is getting thicker. And so we are even increasing that fund slightly. And a lot of work has been done in the Garden Villa Recreation Rooms. They look really good. They have new chairs. Where the carpeting's been replaced, it's amazing. They've gone to squares instead of a great big rug. So when something is damaged, they just take out one square instead of having to do the whole thing. So it's been a wonderful improvement. They'll need less money for those things, and the fund is growing. And that concludes most of the finance things until we go to the very last slide, and that is our resale history. And you can see that resales have been robust. Someone once asked me, they said, well, is that a good thing that we have a lot of resales? Because some communities are very stable and they don't. But remember, this is a retirement community. This is an over 55 community. You can't move in until you've reached a certain age. We aren't moving in to raise our families and be here through generations. It's a very special time. And so we do see more resales. So in that respect, what's good is that when things go on the market, they sell. And so that's what's really important there. And if you look in the upper right-hand corner to see the average resale price, although 2020 and 21 resale prices stayed fairly even, but there was a fairly significant jump. And in 2022, the average resale price is over $500,000. I have been asked, and we're going to work with the finance people, to show this not only as an average, but we're going to also show the median. That's the number right smack in the middle. And the reason for doing that, I think will be very helpful to all of us, is the reason for doing it is that there are some outliers that are very, very expensive, and they throw that number off. And so for next month, I hope to have those figures presented that way as well. And that concludes the finance report from the committee and the chair as well.
Thank you, Donna. All right. Next, we'll move on to the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee. Jim?
Okay, we met on May 23rd. Just as a preface, under our CCNRs, variances are now being approved at the committee level at the ACSC. Only denials are going to be appealed to the third board. So that will save anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks in the variance process. We did have resignations of Lauren Varnum and Richard De La Fuente, and that may cause a slight delay in processing mutual consents as all of their work has to be handed off to others and brought up to speed. A variance request for a shade structure over a patio was approved with conditions, and with that, staff was also directed to look at the color scheme of shades to make them into the more modern versions than the older versions that we had, because the older versions conflict even with our new paint colors. There's a contract that has been executed with Cardoso and Associates for design services on water heater standard for the exterior water heater enclosures, and that is to bring them into an aesthetically more appealing. It's not that we're allowing more to be built out in the common area, but the ones that are there have to be grandfathered, and when they're sold, then there will be a design to bring them in where they look or match the stucco, match the roofing, so they don't just look like outhouses or eyesores attached to the outside of structures. The staff was directed, and again, this just happens to coincide with the presentation by a couple members. The staff was directed to review with the city water heater replacements and try and add that to the list of alterations not requiring a mutual consent, so that you go directly to the city for a water heater replacement, because they're the ones that require a permit, they're the ones that do the inspection, and take that out of our list of things for what the HOA does, because we really shouldn't be involved in that when it's just a replacement like for like. Upon sale, third is looking to have both exterior and interior included in the first inspection, and staff was instructed to analyze difference in cost between Third and United's first inspection fee before recommending to the board approval of the revised alterations fee schedule in consideration of that. And so we kind of put the cart before the horse today, but it is being sent back to the ACSC, so hopefully staff will come up with the recommendations and the follow-up on that. Staff is also to look at cathedral ceilings and soffits as exclusive use common area, so that they may be included as a basic variance in the revised fee schedule with committee approval. And basically what we're trying to do is take that area within the cocoon of a building and treat it as we're treating the patio areas that are fenced around so that it can be done over the counter without going through a long, extensive process. Because most of the remodeling that people are doing when they come in and do the real big remodels, they raise the soffits and they raise the ceilings to cathedral ceilings. And finally, the goal of ACSE is to work to streamline variance, alterations, and mutual consent, move many to the over-the-counter for approval. That way it'll reduce the time for variances, it'll simplify the process, and it'll also reduce staff time and cost to the HOA to process all of this. So our next meeting will be May 23rd, or June 27th, and hopefully people that have concerns, and I would really invite the people that prepared this really nice document to come and make comments at the ACSC when we have our next meeting on June 27th. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. All right, next is Third Communications Committee. Annie?
Thank you, President. The Third Communications Committee's next scheduled meeting is going to be July 13th at 1:30 p.m. here in the Willow Room. Not here, but in the Willow Room. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Annie. Third Maintenance and Construction Committee. Ralph?
The last third M&C meeting was May 2. Most of that activity was previously reported, I think, at the last board meeting. I will mention a couple of things. Design remediation of there was design for remediation of the groundwater problem, and Gate 11 is continuing. And a couple of things I'll mention that were being considered for the 2023 budget include lighting improvement for common areas in the GV buildings, more frequent termite inspection, automatic pressure-sensitive shutoffs for certain buildings, inspection of structural elements in conformance with the state-required SB 326, and improvements for pedestrian lighting, and there's other things also that are being considered. But I just wanted to mention those because they have been talked about before. The next third M&C committee meeting is scheduled for July 7th in the Community Center Boardroom. That's right here, and also via Zoom. Thank you.
Thanks, Ralph. Next is Parking and Golf Cart Subcommittee. Kush?
Thank you. Our last meeting was held on May 25th, 2022. Many items were discussed. Most notably were the RFP for electrical engineering service for cul-de-sac 317, additional golf cart parking at 4013 Calle Sonora Oste, that is cul-de-sac 406, additional golf cart and car parking at 3299 Via Carrizo, cul-de-sac 326. However, due to budgetary reasons, no money was put in the parking budget for 2022, hence no decisions were possible. However, staff is still working on a possible solution for EV cars as a chargeable service to be announced at a future committee meeting. Our next meeting will be July 27th at 1:30 p.m. All our future meetings will be every other month on the fourth Wednesday. That's an easy way to remember. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kush. I'm going to move to the Landscape Committee. Ira?
Well, basically the Landscape Committee talked about a lot of the things we had already talked about today. But first, I'd like to thank Lynn Jarrett for her service as chair for that committee up until the last meeting. We talked about water usage. Kurt talked about fire zone mitigation of plants out there, and that's the quick summary of what went on that meeting. The next meeting will be July 7th, just in a few weeks, and hopefully we'll be talking about water a little bit more.
Thanks, Ira. Speaking of water, Water Conservation Committee, Donna?
Yes, the Water Conservation Committee met April 28th after having actively participated in the Earth Day events the week before. And I'm very pleased to report that residential water use not only has gone down, it's not as appreciably as I would like to see it, as we all would like to see it, but it's in the right direction. And what's most exciting, and the committee doesn't meet until July, so they haven't heard this yet, but our members need to hear it. And that is that last July, when we were faced with rate increases from El Toro Water District, we had Tier 4, meaning the highest water use. We had over 43 meters that were at Tier 4. That doesn't mean 43 units, because 1 meter could serve a whole garden villa building. One could serve a triplex. It could serve a 2-story building. And so it's just meters. But we had, at that time, 43 meters for a total of over $15,000 in fees just at Tier 4. That was when the Water Committee began to meet in earnest and plead in earnest and give suggestions in earnest, and the residents have responded every single month. The Tier 4 levels, and that's, you have to start somewhere. The Tier 4 levels have been going down, and just received the April 30th statement, and with a steady decline from those 43 in July, we are now at 12 meters. For a total of, you heard $15,000 plus back in July. Even with the increase in water rates, the total cost for the Tier 4 water is just under $3,800. That is huge. So it's a thank you not only to our residents who are using less water, but who are reporting leaks. That's the bigger bang for the buck is stopping leaks. And so not only reporting leaks, but M&C getting out there and fixing them. And there's consideration for adding some pressure regulators, which might help. But I think that decrease in Tier 4 is a combination of a lot of things. But it's going in the right direction, and it's exciting to see. And yes, Jules, you have a question?
I have a question. How did you do it? What was the...
I ran around turning off everybody's spigots. No, we have been doing campaigning. We have had television shows. We had a panel discussion that was well received that's still on YouTube. We've had several things, spoke at the Earth Day, every opportunity that we've had, we've done it. We have wonderful, wonderful cooperation from El Toro Water District. There are 3 directors who live in the village, and they themselves have also participated. We had the general manager of El Toro Water District speak at one of our board meetings, so there's been there's been a lot of work, but the results are in the right direction and very exciting to see. And so for our residents, please, continue to find and to report those leaks and to continue to decrease your water use. And when the watering decreases on our lawns, don't make up for it by using the hose attached to the spigot at your house, because that's residential water. We're going to go in the right direction there, too. It's just going to take a little while. Our next meeting is scheduled for April the 28th, or for July 28th at 2 p.m. At the moment, it's scheduled in the Sycamore. I'm hoping just to make sure we are in a spot where people can come, because we are getting people attending and would like to encourage that and continue it. And it will also be available as a hybrid.
Good job.
Yeah, thanks, Donna, and thanks, everybody, for continuing to conserve. Appreciate that. Finally, we have the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee. That committee last met on Tuesday, May 24th, where we discussed the guidelines for financial qualifications and the policy regarding the distribution of printed materials that we already discussed and voted on this morning. The next Resident Policy and Compliance Committee meeting will be Tuesday, June 28th at 9:30 here in the boardroom. And now we'll move on to share our monthly GRF committee report, starting with a report of the Community Activities Committee, led by Annie. Thanks, or spoken to by Annie.
Yeah, thank you, President Laws. The Community Activities Committee met on June 9th, and it was a hybrid meeting. First of all, Brian Gruner gave us an update in terms of staffing, and he says staffing and recruitment constraints continues to be challenging to the Recreation Department. Opportunities to expand operations, and as there are many in the community, so they're still looking to hire more staff. He did mention club infighting has grown in the last year, with many clubs not being able to resolve some of their internal differences. So that is something that we see often coming to the committee. In terms of facility and programs, Clubhouse 1, new project screen is to be installed. The contractor did run into some installation challenges that required a contract amendment, which delayed the project. In terms of Clubhouse 4, the slip casting HVAC system is in the process of being repaired and should be operational very soon. In terms of aquatics, all the pools are open and operational. Pools 2 and 6 are currently still without lifeguards. Pool 1 spa boiler has been replaced and is operational. In terms of the PAC, renovations continues on the billboard rooms, kitchen, and rehearsal rooms. And also in the PAC, new flooring in the billiard room has been installed, and the kitchen cabinets have been completely repainted. There was an announcement by Juanita Skillman in terms of the library, and they are having story time at the Village Library, and there are some dates: June 22nd, July 13th, and August 10th, from 10:30 to 1:30, and residents are invited to bring their grandchildren and listen to stories. The meetings will be held on the lawn in the front of the library, and people are encouraged to bring blankets and other stuff to make comfortable. CEO Shaban mentioned about the 4th of July golf cart parade. That's going to be Monday, July 4th, and free admission from 11 to 2 p.m. So there's information about that. There is also going to be a club president meeting. It's going to be held on Thursday, June 23rd in the Clubhouse 5 main lounge from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And there's one other event that's going to be happening at the Performing Arts Center on Saturday, July 9th at 3 p.m. It's a Southbound and Company Band, and they play all your favorites and classical rock hits. So tickets for that are $15, $20, and $25, and they're on sale at the PAC office. That's my report. The next meeting is scheduled for July 14th.
Great, thank you, Annie. Next, the Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee. Kush?
Thank you. Our last meeting was on May 25th, 2022 at 1 p.m. The first Village Renaissance Fair was on Saturday, May 21st. I have the flyer to show you, and the reason I am doing this is I had not visited the Equestrian Center in the last 6 years that I have been here, but I was in awe to see the size and the gem that we have in our community. If any of you or whoever's listening hasn't been to the Equestrian Center, I strongly recommend that you go visit, and you will be dumbstruck by what we have over here. In the middle of an urban area, to have a thing like that, I was amazed. So anyway, the Village Renaissance Fair was on Saturday, May 21st, from noon to 5 at the Equestrian Center. It was a great event and well received. The old pros, dancing and musical performances were there throughout the day. Food was from Viking food truck. The event was well received and has potential to be an annual event. Help the Herd team is working hard, and $5,000 was raised to install shaded covers for the herd. The next focus will be the remaining shade covers for the turnouts. Phase 2 will be the round pens and replacement with Phase 3 being the addition of medical needs for the horses. The date for our next meeting will be August 31st, 2022 at 1 p.m.
All right, thanks, Kush. Next, the GRF Finance Committee.
Yes, the GRF Finance Committee met on June 15th. They were better by budget, which was the first part of the report, by $990,000, not unlike us, primarily due to decreased employee compensation because of open positions and primarily because of decreased janitorial services at night for those clubhouses that remain closed at night because of a lack of staff. So again, the problem's pretty much the same. It is budget season for them as well as for us, and they kicked off the 2023 business plan development in March and have been having extra meetings to discuss that just as we have, and that will be work that will continue throughout the summer. The next meeting will be August 17th at 1:30 here in the boardroom and is a virtual meeting.
Thank you. GRF Landscape Committee, Ira?
The committee met on June 8th, and we had a short presentation from Angel from Landscaping showing various projects around the community to help keep it make Laguna Woods Village good, primarily around the GRF properties, which are the clubhouses and so on. We also voted unanimously to approve the new controller system to get done, installed now versus over a period of 2 years to enable all the mutuals to save money sooner rather than later with the predicted minimum 11% savings in water, upwards to possibly 30% just by having finer tuning control over our irrigation system. And the next meeting will be September 14th. At 1:30 in the boardroom, both as a virtual and an in-person meeting.
All right. Thanks, Ira. Next, we'll move on to the GRF Maintenance and Construction Committee. Ralph?
Okay, the last GRF M&C meeting was June 8th. Ian Barnett reported that the revised lighting system at the Maintenance Service Center employee parking lot was completed in April, and there was installation of 2 new 20-foot poles at a cost of around a little less than $25,000. Driving range looks a little bit barren out there, but the soil analysis and evaluation is continuing. They expect the work to be done this summer and at least have it green, hopefully green, maybe brown, the way that we're doing with the water. Previous plans for the welding shop needed revision due to building code changes, and approval for that is expected shortly. Street paving, we've probably seen some of that, blockades in here and there. Please respect necessary traffic rerouting inconveniences. That will probably be over with in another month or so. Guy West gave an update on call center revision. A contract has been executed and equipment has been ordered, and the upgrade is expected to be completed next month. We had a very extensive discussion on energy management systems, including problems of integrating obsolete and obsolescent analog and digital systems with a flexible and efficient EMS system. Mr. Barnett stated that some of our present clubhouse systems, for example, are out of date and no longer technically supported, and therefore we need complete revision on some of that equipment. Some of it also requires frequent manual adjustment. Control systems are available now which allow computer programming even for a month ahead as to which rooms are being scheduled for use and so forth. And this is really handling mostly the air conditioning systems. And this also has flexibility for making changes during the month as may be needed. All of this goes to the name of increased energy efficiency and reduced operating cost. EV charging, that's electrical vehicle automobile charging, is still being considered, mostly at destination locations like clubhouses and golf courses and so forth. So far, there's been no cost to the community. Negotiations are still continuing on that line. The next meeting for the GRF M&C is scheduled for August 10 of this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. Next, John, hopefully will talk with us about Clubhouse Facilities Renovation Ad Hoc Committee.
The Clubhouse Renovation Committee will meet this coming Friday, and there'll be an open and a closed meeting. At the open meeting, we'll be discussing restroom beautification in Clubhouse 3 and ongoing beautification of clubhouses. We discussed dining room kitchens in Clubhouse 3, billiard rooms, rehearsal room, lighting room. Closed meeting, we'll be discussing Clubhouse 1, where there's a difference of 8 times the proposed price, and the amount is about $50,000. And we'll be discussing that on Friday. And that completes my report.
Okay. Thank you, John. Back to Annie to share information about the Media and Communications Committee.
The Media and Communications Committee met on June 20th. The first thing we discussed was the new June-July issue of the Village Breeze is out, and just really to highlight some of the articles that are in there. There's an article that talks about grill safety, barbecue grills, and what's allowed and what's not allowed. There's an article in here about some of the stuff that's going on with Southern California Edison and what you can learn about power outages, information to talk about that. Another really nice article talks about how to prevent U.S. mail theft. Another article is how to keep cool during the hot temperatures. And there's a really nice article about why my grass is overgrown. So there's some information about landscape. This June-July issue is full of information, and all residents are really encouraged when you get your copy to really review some of those articles. If you don't have a copy, you can always get one from either the concierge desk or call the Media and Communications office, and they'll make sure that you get one. In addition, Elise Rothrock went over some of the Media and Communication departments, what its scope is, and basically she talked about administration, the cable TV network, the TV studios, Media Service 55, and the internet services. Those are all included in the scope. There was some discussion about staffing and how they are doing with staffing. She also talked about some of the revenue that's coming in, and she highlighted some of the revenue, just the high-speed internet, some of the equipment rentals, and broadband services are just some of the revenue resources. She talked about some of the expenses and how the department is working to look at their expenses. She also talked about the budget and that they have really gone through their budget with the fine-tooth comb, and it's as thin as they can actually get it. So we appreciate them looking at their budget. She also talked about some of the priorities for 2023, which include develop and launch the new website, adopt strategic plan to sunset cable television systems, and launch of a fiber optic network infrastructure investment to prepare for streaming content. And there was additional discussion about the streaming content and how the communications department can start ahead of time letting residents know the importance of streaming and how to best get residents educated on the streaming process, and more information on that will be coming down the road. Paul Ortiz also discussed, we talked about transitioning from programming to streaming. The broadband group, which hasn't met for a while, they're putting together an information packet, and Paul hopes to give the committee some information related to what the broadband group has discovered since they last met. The next meeting is July 18th. It will be a hybrid meeting here in the boardroom. And that's my report.
Thanks. There's always a lot going on in that team. Thanks. Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Kush?
Thank you. Our Mobility and Vehicles Committee was held on June 1st, 2022. There was no new item discussed, so none to share right now. The meeting was held in the boardroom. Rider statistics were shared. Ridership is improving in our bus system. However, people are being, asked to be cautious and wear a mask since the COVID is rapidly, and it's very easy for it to spread. And practice social distancing. Our next meeting is on August 3rd, 2022 at 1:30 p.m.
Great, thank you. Security and Community Access Committee, Craig?
Yes, thank you. The fact of the matter is this committee meets every other month, so there is nothing new to present. The next meeting will be on June 27th at 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom, and it will be a virtual meeting as well.
Thanks, Craig. Disaster Preparedness Task Force, Donna?
Yes, the task force last met on March 29th of this year, and that has been reported on. The biggest point that they brought up at that meeting and is still current is that they've made a call for more good neighbor captains. We do need more volunteers. You can call in and volunteer or stop by their office, which is right on the main floor of this building, the community center. Your help is really needed. And the next meeting is scheduled for July 26th at 9:30 in the morning.
Thanks. Thanks. Now, how are things with the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings, John?
The traffic committee met last week on Wednesday. And
President
there were
Laws, sorry.
3 violations. A parking violation was found guilty. Failure to obey a stop sign was found guilty. And the third one was a interesting one, parking in his driveway. But there's a number of the cul-de-sacs that have very, very short driveways that far shorter than the length of the car. And so there was a tie vote. The chair had to vote, and we voted not guilty.
All right. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. Looks like we had some member who's interested in speaking about the Security and Community Access Committee update.
I'd like to share a small one-page cartoon. You may pass through, that would be great. Well, I'm waiting 4 hours, so
Yes.
you're going to give me a 40 minutes? My name is Yongchin Park. I'm 34th County, Peliazur. Reason I 3 different things. I like the president. You are smiling 4 hours straight. I like you very much. Number 2, I live as of today or yesterday in 10 years Laguna Woods.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Very good.
This title is the below heaven Laguna Woods Village. We have more than 100 people contributing our wonderful Laguna Woods. Some of them new people coming. We just give this magazine. This is every other year published. And we don't need the speaking anymore because they look at it, wow, and they come. Unofficially or officially, residents in Korean in this community, over 1,500 to 2,000. Well, that's great news, isn't it?
It is.
And many people play golf, as you know, about 70%, so far I know. Enjoy. Great. Appreciate it. But lately, we have sad news because we lost between 8 to 11 golf cart stolen. I'm sure you know. How do we? I thought this is the best retirement place. Security is number one. But what the hell is going on? Between 8 to 11 golf cart is missing. I spoke to the police, United, one of the director, and this issue is supposed to be GRF. Either way, GRF or the administrator. This is one of the most safe retirement village. Also, as we all know, one of the highest paid HOA. What we senior could be get the benefit of it without security? Like I say, this magazine is very impressed so many people. We don't need the explanation. Just give it to them. You read, you decide. And a lot of people, wow, they sign. So that's what I'm saying. I get here 9 o'clock, 10 seconds left, 9 o'clock, to wait until this moment. And I could walk out without, but point is, it's a senior village. It's a senior village, safe village. We want to enjoy. So, security, whoever, I don't care who is the security director, he should be something more invested and better report. People visiting offices, or we investigating.
All right.
That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. It looks like our...
I can provide a brief update on the golf cart situation. A few of the carts were recovered within the village, and our security department, using our camera system and so forth, identified a suspect. They turned that suspect over to the Orange County Sheriff's Department, and they are pursuing that suspect, and there have been no thefts since that time.
It's the, I never car lock. Even my condominium door is not locked. That much I trust this village, how security. And I'm proud and happy to be until I die. Thank you very much.
Happy to have you. Thanks for sticking around.
You are good smiling all the time. I hope you're going to continue to do that, sir. Thank you.
Me too. Me too. Thank you very much. All right. Okay.
No more member comments at this time.
Two more member comments?
No more member comments.
I was going to, okay. All right. Ira, what's going on with the GRF Strategic Planning Committee?
Okay, the committee met on May 2nd, and basically they're compiling, Debbie is the chair, compiling a questionnaire to send out all to the members so we can decide on what would be our best plan of attack. And that's where it sits right now. Our next meeting will be announced hopefully sometime soon.
Okay. Thanks. Next, we have the Information Technology Advisory Committee. That committee, known as ITAC, met last Friday, June 17th. This committee is currently providing executive oversight to the ERP project. Regarding the ERP project, the first phase focuses on the financial systems, and workshops are currently underway to review all financial functionality and identify current issues and requirements for the new ERP system. The ITAC will next meet this coming Friday, June 24th. Now moving on to the Purchasing Ad Hoc Committee. Donna?
We have not met since our initial meeting on April 7th. Primarily, the purpose was to look and revise the purchasing agreement, make it a little bit more user-friendly, and that has gone back to GRF, and when they are ready, they will let us know, and we'll meet again and hopefully come up with a nice, refined purchasing policy.
Thank you. And Website Ad Hoc Committee?
Thank you. The Website Ad Hoc Committee had not met for some time now, but we do have a meeting scheduled next July 6th here in the boardroom, and it will be a hybrid meeting.
Okay, thank you. And finally, we have the Insurance Ad Hoc Committee. Yes, I've been smiling too much. Can't talk anymore. This committee is made up of representatives from GRF, United, and Third boards, and last met on Friday, June 17th. That may not be true. They may not last met that quickly, so that's my mistake. Purpose of the committee is to work together to identify approaches to reduce the cost of property insurance within the village. Options being explored include, but are not limited to, starting our own insurance company, self-insurance, or self-insuring, and combining United and Third's purchasing power to get better pricing. The next meeting of this committee has not yet been set. And that concludes our committee reports. We're now at future agenda items. Agenda item 16. Are there any items that any of the directors would like to add here to be discussed at an upcoming board meeting? Okay, I'm looking around and not seeing anybody even looking at me. All right, they're getting hungry. All right, so then no future agenda items for today. We're now to director comments. I'm going to start with Ira, so that I don't forget him at the end.
No further comments.
Okay, thanks. Jules, any director comments?
How could I not? I am very happy to be back on the board. I think that last gentleman characterized something. He made a statement that sort of encompasses all the feelings that I have. There are more smiles around this panel today than I have seen in years, and I'm just delighted. I'm also delighted to have seen so many people turn out for a good or for a bad reason. But the fact that they are participating just fills me with all kinds of good spirit. Thank you.
Thanks, Jules. How about you, Craig?
No comment, thank you.
Thanks. Jim?
No further comment.
Okay. John?
No comment, thank you.
Okay, Rob?
No comment, thank you.
Annie?
No further comments.
Chris?
I just want to thank everyone for their warm welcome, and I'm glad to be here and working with you all.
Great, thanks. Donna?
No further comment.
Yeah, Kush?
None now, thank you.
Okay, before we get to staff, I'm just going to mention for myself, just a reminder, Town Hall tomorrow, 3 to 5, and the Clubhouse 2. I'll be joined by Jim Cook, who's the chair of the Architecture Committee, and by Ira Lewis, who's the chair of the Landscaping Committee. So the three of us will be there to answer your questions, hear your comments, suggestions. We're open to all of that. Siobhan, any comments?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay. Corporate Secretary Michaela, anything you want?
No comment.
Okay. And Paul?
No comment.
Okay. And the room is now empty. Business for our open meeting is now completed. We will now recess. At this time, we'll reassess for lunch and reconvene to a closed session. When do you guys want to reconvene? Since it's late, I'm hoping we can make it a working lunch, but I want to give you a few minutes to get up there. Is 20 minutes enough? So we start at... Okay, yeah, well, you had to get your food, but you got to get your food. Okay, so we'll cut it in half, 15. We'll start at 1:35. So Michaela, you'll let folks know. Thanks, everybody.
Yes.
It's been fun.